All right, we ready? We starting the show?
We are starting the show.
What did you do?
Sorry, the computer seems to be glitching. I'm not in control of that. I don't know what's going on there.
What was that about?
I don't know. It's just weird. There's like something interrupting our feed and it just keeps popping up. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Sorry, it's very confusing. Wow, what an attractive woman.
You can appreciate and enjoy the real thing live and in all of its glory.
I think you look more of a woman than old Roxy there, mate.
You've done me dirty, though.
Have I? You look gorgeous. Did you ever think about going blonde? Because it could be a new thing for you. You removed yourself, mate. You were.
No, I did not. You removed me. I've touched nothing. Am I allowed to talk?
I'll allow it.
You've done me dirty. I am at least 2 cup sizes bigger than that. That is a gross. I'm offended.
You know how I know you're a man? Because you made it about that.
Well, listen, every time you put that picture up, it removes me for some reason. I think that's sexism against women. I think it is removing me because I'm a woman, and it's sexist. I think that's what's going on here.
Well, to be fair, I am a biological woman, so I have no rights. So just sue me into the ground because
the word biological is oppressive now because you're still trying to draw a differentiation between us. It's just woman. It's just
women. I have to unlearn all of my bigotry. I apologize. I've got a lot of bigotry to unlearn.
Apology not accepted. I'll see you in court.
Fair.
Now,
fair. Take me to the Human Rights Commission.
I do want to say OnlyFans are bracing themselves. They're upgrading their servers as we speak because they're expecting such an influx of people because I am opening a new OnlyFans. It's me and my friend and inspiration, Roxy Tickle. Many of you would be familiar. And I, in solidarity with Roxy, am changing my name. I'm no longer Topher. I thought I'd stick with the T because, it's just easier. But I've gone with Tess. So I'll be Tess Tickle. And so it's Roxy and excuse me, did you just giggle?
Yeah.
Fine, we're having a lawsuit and it'll be Tickle versus Giggle. It'll be Test Tickle versus Giggle. That's I will see you there.
Oh, I don't have the bandwidth for this today. This is too much. Oh, the comments are sensational, guys. Please, I haven't laughed this much in a long time.
So this is the real question. Forget what is a woman. Do women exist? I mean, we've had the birds aren't real. We've had the birds aren't real campaign. Why not a women aren't real campaign? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of incels in their basements who would agree with us.
The feminist movement has gone so down the rabbit hole that they've actually erased themselves because biological women mean shit now because you can be a woman and guess what? I just have to cop it. So hey guys, I'm really angry about this. I'm trying to be cool, calm, and collected. But guys, if you're a 50-year-old man who has pedophilic thoughts and you've always wanted to go into a women's change room where there's a 5-year-old getting out of their swimsuit with their mum, you're now welcome to do that. Have fun.
Thanks for killing the vibe.
Yeah. That's how messed up it is. That's where we're at.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is the thing. You're not wrong, and obviously, we're not making any specific accusations. But as a general observation, this is an invitation to anyone that was interested in taking advantage of this situation. I mean, no surgery required. This is a transition in the opinion of the person who says so, and nothing more, nothing less. That's all that's required.
What's most outrageous about this too is that in the desperate need to satisfy a small, tiny minority of people, it's come at the safety of the majority of women who don't want this in any way, shape, or form. And what their whole premise is that until the bad thing happens, we'll accept that it's all good, even though we have so many examples of the bad thing happening and it keeps happening. It's happened frequently, but that's not enough to go, maybe we should double check and reconsider this. No, let's just have a free for all. So you better believe I have a reel ready to go.
You are actually being too generous because we proved in the UK with the grooming gangs, and we proved in Australia. You remember you and I predicted, with all of the escalating violence, the kids being stabbed and macheted and everything else, that it was going to have to be an Indigenous kid or a migrant kid getting killed that was going to finally get the authorities to take action. And then Indigenous kids were, or an Indigenous kid, at least one, was killed. Multiple immigrant kids were killed, and still the authorities did nothing. So actually, we were too generous in our assumption that would actually trigger some kind of an appropriate response. So unfortunately, you're sort of saying, oh, it's something bad has to happen before they'll do something. I think history suggests that something bad will happen and they still won't do anything.
Yeah. I actually feel sick to my stomach. And do you know what's crazy is I don't have kids and I'm worked up about this, but Gareth G is as worked up about this as I am. I think most red-blooded men are worked up about this because you know exactly what this means. Like, and I'm going to play a reel in a second because it basically sums up everything I want to say. What this is literally an erosion of everything the feminists fought for. And I got into a bit of an argument today on my Instagram because people like, why don't you identify as a feminist? Why wouldn't you want to be a feminist? I'm like, I don't ever want to blame half of the human population for everything that's wrong in this world. I think everything that has come out of feminism, bar the suffrages and a few other bits and pieces, has been actually really bad for society, has eroded society. I think a lot of it is actually at women's to the detriment of women. Women in the workplace, women can have it all. Women should work, 40, 50 hours a week like the man. And, women should do all this sort of stuff and be away from the kids, and women shouldn't have kids, and women should be like the man in the relationship. And now we've got women should allow biological men to just say they're women. They don't even have to look like a woman, sorry. Yeah. They can just say, I feel like a woman. And we have no legal recourse to turn around and say, well, actually, no. So I use that example, but I just hope people can understand how serious this is. So you think about your local community swimming pools, where your little kids under like 10 years of age are going and doing their swimming lessons, right? Most of those kids after I used to be a swimming teacher. Can you tell how I know? So after their swimming lesson, they usually run to the change room and they get out of their bathers and they put their dressing gowns on or their jammies and they go home for the night. And they're usually in there with their mum. And, they're all in there just getting dressed with their mum out in the open. What's to stop a grown-ass man just saying, hey, I am a woman, going into that change room where there's 20 little girls getting changed? And the problem is, I don't think people understand this. There aren't necessarily cubicles for them all. Like they're in the locker room. That's what it's like. And so now, and the thing is, hang on, just let me finish. The thing is, that man can walk in and he can also get naked. And if the mother complains, she's at fault.
That's right. That's the bit that I wanted to make sure we got to. Yeah.
That is what happened. That is now the law. The federal law determined that we women, biological women, who might feel unsafe and feel like that person's a predator, have no legal recourse. If anything, we get in trouble for it.
Correct.
That's
correct.
The world
Don't you
we live
dare
in.
speak up. Don't you dare speak up. Now, what's interesting here, Pro Engineer, regular commenter and friend of the show, makes the point, I'm not convinced suffrage was the win they make it out to be. And I got to tell you, there are a lot more people beginning to ask themselves that question, including a lot of women, by the way, beginning to say, maybe that hasn't worked out quite the way we thought. I'll let people come to their own conclusions there. But Deadpan by Design says, genuine question, are these leaders captured by someone or something? Is it blackmail? Are they paid? I sincerely believe that it's worse than that. They believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
I actually think that that's true. Yeah. Yeah. They are so deluded. Woe unto those who call evil good and good evil. We live under a government that believes that it's God, that if it says that sex isn't biological and that doesn't matter anymore, then that's just how it is. I talk about, people get annoyed at me because, oh, you're talking about religion all the time. No. But understand, we live in a religious country. They killed God. They killed the God of the Bible, got him out of public life, and they put the government in his place. And these people now actually genuinely believe that if they get together and they have a little vote in that room and a majority of them agree, then they can change biological reality. That is a God complex in a literal sense. So, I'm sorry, but I don't think these guys are paid off. I don't think they're under blackmail. I think they actually believe that this is a great idea.
So I'll play it in 2 seconds, but I put up a reel about this, obviously, and I was pretty hot-headed, and I was trying to be, somewhat careful because obviously there's legal recourse now. These people can sue me if I say the wrong thing. So I need to be careful because the federal court has determined that a trans man or trans woman, sorry, is a woman. And
He's a woman. Yep.
I have no way of saying otherwise. So,
and how dare you disagree?
So I'll play the reel in a second, but the only people that came out to say that I was a TERF and I was transphobic and what I was saying was terrible were other women. It was other women who were saying that my points were, based in hate and fear. And I'm going to play this reel because I say everything I want to say in this reel. All right, ready? Guys, get drinking. It's going to be a good one. You ready?
My goodness. All right.
All right, here we go. Australian women have set back women's rights almost 60 years, and they built the laws to make it possible. If you say any of this out loud, these same women will call you a TERF and a bigot and expect you to keep your mouth shut. So let's talk about it. The full federal court has ruled that Sel Grover, a woman who built a women-only app, directly discriminated against a biological male by not allowing him to join. The court itself said that the logic of the outcome was actually the Parliament's problem. And if we trace it back to Parliament, it was, of course, a woman who made the changes in 2013 to the Sex Discrimination Act. None other than Julia Gillard, who deleted the legal definitions of biological male and female and replaced them with gender identity. The same Julia Gillard who stood in Parliament the year before and delivered Australia's most celebrated speech on misogyny. The irony, of course, being she is now the cornerstone of our nation's misogyny laws. Worked up yet? Let me make you angrier. The Sex Discrimination Commissioner, who argued in court that biological sex is irrelevant to the definition of a woman, is of course a woman. 2 of the 3 judges who today upgraded the finding to direct discrimination and doubled the damages are women. And the judge who in 2024 sentenced a Victorian man for sexually abusing his 5-year-old daughter on 19 occasions whilst filming it and sharing it with an overseas pedophile is, you guessed it, a woman. This man, identified as transgender after his arrest, and the judge cited his gender dysphoria and his experiences of transphobia as reasons to reduce his sentence. The maximum available was 25 years and he received 4 years and 9 months. So just to be clear, you can horrifically sexually abuse a young girl and, as the judge acknowledged in open court, receive a lighter sentence because of your gender dysphoria. Got it. The kicker to this is he's now suing the women's prison for violations of his human rights. And no, it's not just an isolated case. A second trans-identified male is currently housed at the same Victorian women's prison, convicted of attempting to rape a woman on a Melbourne street and sexually abusing his own 6-year-old daughter. He adopted a transgender identity in the men's prison, was transferred to a facility full of women, and the government saw nothing wrong with it. In 2022, a convicted trans-identifying male murderer sexually assaulted a female prisoner in a Victorian women's prison. The government knew for 4 years, secretly settled, and did not charge the offender, and Jacinta Allen, the female Premier of Victoria, refused to answer a single question about it. And it's not just in Australia. In England and Wales, nearly half of all transgender prisoners have at least one conviction for a sexual offence. So no, women aren't being paranoid. Women are reading documented evidence produced by courts, governments and prison authorities and drawing a completely reasonable conclusion. They have every right to be frightened. The legal architecture that once protected them was not dismantled by men, it was dismantled by women in positions of power who decided that the feelings of a few outweighed the safety of the many and then made it a federal offence to disagree. Sel Grover will appeal to the High Court and it's up to us to get behind her, and now we get to enjoy all the vile commentary of the woke women outraged by reality in my comment section. There you go.
I can't comment. I'm not allowed to have an opinion on this topic. Ironically, although I could become a woman at a moment's notice, just simply with an announcement, because I haven't made that announcement, I, of course, have absolutely no standing to make any comment or to have any opinions on this topic. You understand there is no such thing as gender, but because I'm not the right gender, I can't comment. But if I swapped my genders, which don't exist, by the way, then I could become a gender that could comment on these gender issues. But genders are, they're a construct. They're not a real thing. So I can't. So I have to stay out of this one, Carly.
The crazy thing is, as much as that sounded like gibberish, that's exactly how they argue the law. I went and looked at it, and I was reading the parts of the transcript. I was reading part of the judgment. And when you read it, this is psychological warfare. There's that quote from Orwell. Someone gave it last week. It's the title of the episode. It was always the women who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, especially the young ones. And you're right. You're right. And you made the joke before. I know you're being silly, but you made the comment like, I don't know if the suffrages was the flex they think it is. There is an element of this where, like, I'm a woman, right? But I resent so many women for allowing us to get to this point. And what's worse is somehow this ideology has such a chokehold over them that they are not able to hear themselves speaking in doublespeak. We talk about Orwell all the time. This is Orwellian. You have fought the patriarchy so much that you've single-handedly allowed the man back into the spaces we fought for.
That's right. This is Monty Python. This is the Three Stooges. This is Abbott and Costello, as this comment here is about. We are living in clownland, and I think that's kind of part of the point. I think it's Solzhenitsyn talked about the demoralization that comes, that they're not lying to make us believe a lie. They're lying to make us live with the lie, knowing that it's a lie, to live with it even though we don't believe it. There is something deeply demoralizing about forcing people into a situation where they know the truth, but they can't actually live by that truth, and they can dare not even speak the name of the truth for fear of consequences.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I've been hearing like a lot of people talk about it, and where I get frustrated, I mean, I've made this point before, but don't worry, I understand the irony of what I'm about to say, but I'm so sick of people just bitching on the internet, sick of reading the comments. I'm sick of the bitching on the internet, because what follows is nothing. So the reason I bring this up is I've made this point to a few people recently, and they've all said the same thing. Not everyone has the same conviction as you, Carly. Not everyone has the same motivation as you. And there's a part of that. And you and I have made this comment, I reckon, 1,000 times on this podcast. But the other day I saw Dave Hughes start to speak up, and he's posted quite a lot of videos recently condemning the government, both federally and state. Now, Hughesy was one of the big pushers of the vaccine. He was one of the ones that really encouraged lockdown, along with a whole other. And now they're outraged, right? Because all of a sudden it's affecting them. And I don't know what it is that got Hughesy over the line. I don't know if it's the federal budget or it's other things that he's just like, why is this happening? But the reason we're in this mess is because so few speak up. The reason it gets to this point is because so few speak up. And the comment I keep getting is, well, it would cost me my job. Yes, I know. Ask me how I know. It cost me mine. But guess what?
Yeah.
They can't fire us all. And so when all this wokeness was introduced, when everyone was told to put the pronouns in your bio, when everyone was told that we're going to have Trans Visibility Day and that, kids can now swap their genders and all this sort of stuff, very few said anything. You allowed it to happen, right? And I get it. You worried about losing your job. So now, when this happens, when grown-ass men can walk into change rooms and expose their genitals to 5-year-olds and then perhaps do worse, this is on you. And you can get triggered and get pissed off. It's on you. We got here because so few people had a backbone to say no.
Yep.
Sorry.
Exactly.
That's how I
here's
feel.
The thing. People sit there, I can't afford to lose my job. And okay, let's say they're on a pretty good wicket. They're earning $1,500 a week. $1,500. I'd be ruined. I'd be ruined in no time. Okay. Honestly, if you lost that job and you were actually just willing to go and find any old job in order to maintain your values, in order to speak up for what's actually right, you're willing to lose whatever the job is that you've got and just go and find whatever. You're going to walk into a job very quickly. There's a lot of places hiring. You're going to walk into a job at, I don't know, 60, 65 grand a year. It's not going to cost you $1,500 a week. It's going to cost you maybe $150 a week. That's a lot of money. I get it. That's, you sit there and go, well, I'm sorry, I can't afford that. Can you afford to live the rest of your life knowing you shut your mouth when you needed to speak? That's the real question. Can you actually be bought for $150 a week? Yeah. This is what people don't realize when they're making that calculation in their head. Not that they do it consciously. Most people don't do this consciously, but this is part of my course. This is part of the Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass, is actually beginning to think through your values and where we're heading over the next 6 sessions. We're going to be talking about what's your price? How much can you be bought for? And what do you need to do to make sure that that price is as high as possible? $150 a week? for your silence
Yeah.
on something like this? How could you live with yourself? One of the greatest gifts that I ever gave myself was putting it all on the line during COVID. Right. I wake up every day, and it's not that I think of it every single day, but anytime I doubt myself, anytime I'm down, anytime I have those moments, and we all have them, any healthy individual has moments of self-doubt, I sit there and go, yes. But when my test came in its truest and most authentic form, I did what I knew was right. I did what my conscience required me to do, irrespective of the fact that it was going to cost me prison time and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees and who knows how many friends and clients and all the rest of it. You did the same thing. Now, you were roped into it in a slightly different way, but you've stood your ground and you've paid that price. And I tell you, I would not want to live any other way. I would not want to be, for example, the cop during COVID that I featured in Battleground Melbourne, who said, hey, I don't want to be here, but if I'm not skilled for any other job. Like, I don't want to have to live with that on my conscience for the rest of my life, that because I was afraid to lose $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year, heck, $20,000 a year in income, I was afraid of that downgrade, that I sold my soul. Like, I don't want to have to live like that. I don't want you to have to live like that.
My biggest gripe is all the celebrities who are coming out of the woodwork. And I call them celebrities. You can call them successful business owners, influencers, like that tier of people. And I say elites. I don't mean the global elite. I mean people who are wealthy, who are in prestigious positions.
Sure.
Janine Ellis, the owner of Boost Juice, she's come out talking about the federal budget. Obviously, we've got, Adrian Portelli, Beck Judd, a whole host of people. And I'm very grateful they're speaking up. And to be fair, Beck Judd did speak up a lot during COVID. So this is no shade at Beck in any way, shape, or form. But so few actually were willing to put anything on the line. They refused to lose their endorsements, their PR, guest lists, their status. And so now when we're in this diabolical mess, and I keep bringing it back because I want to make sure this illustration sticks in your mind, where a grown-ass man can expose himself in a change room in front of 5-year-old children, and that's the law now. That is our normal. Why is that our normal? Because you said nothing. That's why it's our normal. This is on the shoulders of every single Australian who put pronouns in your bio, who wore the rainbow lanyard, who walked around and said, I'm an ally of the LGBT, whatever the fuck it is, right? This is on your shoulders. So every time one of these children gets sexually abused by a pedophile and then is given a shorter sentence, it's because you have allowed these people who were the minority to indulge their crazy ideology to the point it became law. And it's really easy to get things into law. It's a lot harder to repeal them. So the battle is only just starting. You don't just turn around tomorrow and go, hey, let's undo what Julia Gillard did. Right? Because they've had legal victories. So now there's legal precedent.
Yeah, look, changing the legislation is just a numbers game. That's all it is. And we can get there. We can do that. But it's a mountain to climb, and we have to climb that mountain. That's the only way we fix a lot of these issues is with changes to legislation. And so we have to fight this. I'll just cover this one off quickly. The fact that on Australia, women is challenging Keir Starmer for the UK Prime Ministership, Catherine West. So she challenged him on the back of his resounding loss, the Labor Party's resounding loss at the local council elections in the UK. We do need to talk about the protests at the UK over the weekend, by the way, Carly. Off the back of that, Catherine challenged Keir Starmer and said, if you don't step down immediately, I will do a leadership challenge. She's backed away from that. She's now telling him he's got to step down by September. So hold the thought, wait and see. We'll have to give it a few months before we get to the end of that story. And Authentic Aussie Women has given you some diamonds there, Carlz. Yeah, some sparkle.
Some good news. I've got a little bit of good news to lighten the load because, talking about pedophiles.
Look, this has been a heavy way to start an episode. Got to be honest.
So first good news I have too is we have a new man back on the scene, and his name is Black Mac, and he's back, guys. He's back from his swim in my cup of tea.
Okay, so I knew Macs were good, but I didn't know that Macs could stream to the internet whilst closed and switched off. I can't help but notice you're not using it, so it's not necessary. You can sell it. You don't need that computer, clearly.
What's outrageous is on my desk right now in front of me, I'm too embarrassed to show you, is essentially an Apple store I've got an iPad, I've got an iPhone, I've got a Mac Mini, I've got the laptop. Yeah. Apple make their money from me.
To save a deposit for a house.
Apple Watch, I'm deep in the ether.
You got a freaking Apple store in your lounge room, and you're like, I can't afford the cost of living. Forget the avocados. Forget the smashed avocado. It's the Mac tech that's stopping young people these days.
It's me. It's me, baby. It's got nothing to do with my wardrobe and travel expenses, which we have some travel expenses to talk about. But this is actually my good news. I think people will appreciate this.
Sorry, you can't just drop that on me and have me like in sweats and anxiety about which travel expenses are you going to hit me with? You're going to like invoice me for something?
No, not me, but you and I are indirectly paying for travel expenses for our politicians, and we're going to get to that.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay, phew.
But this is my new hobby. I am the kind of person I don't know if this is ADHD or not, but I fixate on stuff. And my latest fixation is this. And it is.
I'm sorry. What? You need to show me that again. What was that?
Hang on. Let me prepare it so I can show you what it is that I'm showing you. So this is my latest fixation. Do you know what this is? This relic?
That's a butterfly with a slash of light.
Otherwise known as one of these bad boys.
Oh, wow. A vinyl. Goodness me.
I'm now a vinyl collector. And I am so excited about it. Can I tell you?
I can't keep up. Are you into the latest technology? Or are you into the most obsolete technology? I don't understand. Can you please pick a lane and stick with it for like 5 freaking minutes?
No.
Okay, sorry, I just needed to. Sorry, I'm better now. I'm good, everybody. It's fine. Everybody calm down. Come back.
Can I just say there is nothing like, okay, I'll tell you a really quick story. So we grew up, I grew up in Japan, okay? So I did have access to all the latest tech at the time. And I grew up with Laserdisc players and mini disc players, and everything was like, our lounge suite had Dolby Digital built into it before you guys in Australia even knew what that was. We had a gas plasma. So I, at the ripe old age of 40, have never actually had a vinyl player in our house. We never had one. We were already on CDs by the time I was born. So I've never actually had this sort of beautiful, warm, like rich sound. And the other day we were in JB Hi-Fi, and G and I have been talking about it for a while now, because he's got these really cool old school speakers. I can't tell you what they are. G, put them in the chat. But they're like, really, really good speakers, old school speakers. And I said, we should get a record player. And then I went into JB the other day. They had a really good deal, and here we are. I'm now a vinyl collector.
It starts with record players, and then you go to valve amplifiers rather than transistor amplifiers, and then I don't know where you go from there. People just disappear into, like, they go down into their basement with all their hi-fi equipment, and they never show their faces in public again. I don't know what happens to them. I did just try and live fact check you. I tried to be a Jamie, live fact check you, because you said that there were CDs in your household before you were born. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I've got you, because you might be young, but you're not that young. Oh no, CDs were first launched commercially in Japan in 1982.
I told you.
Existed before I was, like, at the year that I was born. What?
So it's funny you say that. G and I were literally having this conversation on the weekend. He's like, CDs came out in the 90s, Carly. I'm like, no, they fucking didn't. I've had CDs my entire life. I've never not had a CD. And he's like, no, they came out in the 90s. I'm like, bullshit. I remember having them.
I am 3.5 months older than CDs.
Does that blow your mind?
I'm not having fun this episode. I'm going to be honest, Carly. This has been a really difficult time for me.
Do you guys know what a laser disc is? Does anyone in the chat know what a laser disc is?
Yeah, of course we know what a laser disc is.
That's what I was playing in the 80s. That's what I had. I didn't know, like, you guys didn't have this stuff. So our lounge room, my dad was an audiophile, right? Like, we had all the stuff, and we had a lounge suite that had like surround sound speakers built into it, and you'd sit in it and the speakers were right near your ears and they'd vibrate. This is back when Dolby Digital or Dolby Surround was really starting to come out. And yeah, I forgot how immersive that sound can be when you set it all up, you know, with all the amps and all the different speakers. Like most of the time, I'm listening through this like on speaker and I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yeah, and it's crap.
Yeah, or, you know, you put your little earbuds in, but then when you play vinyl on old speakers, you're like, wow, music's really good all of a sudden, you know?
Yeah, so vinyl and particularly valve amplifiers, if you go there, it brings an enormous warmth into the sound. And
what do we have? I don't know.
I'm going to piss some people off here. Topher, is it menopause kicking in? Could be. I'm going to piss some people off. Vinyl is a quantifiably lower technical standard. But for many people, it is a much more enjoyable listening experience. And that's the human element that I think often gets missed as technology goes forward. For example, when we went to digital cinema cameras, is it better? Well, technologically, I can tell you without a doubt it's better. I can tell you all the ways in which it has better color performance, higher fidelity, greater crispness, blah, blah, blah. It's better for post-production. I can tell you all the ways technically that it's better. But isn't there something nice about an old film? Isn't there just something warm, like a warm hug from the feeling that you get, that little bit of static in the audio, that little in the audio that comes through.
Is written here. It's just shit artifacts from the manual transfer process. Warmth is just noise.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love it. That's
correct. But that's the thing. So and this, but okay, let me bring it back to politics, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh God.
This is the difference between a bureaucrat who sits in a high tower observing the numbers and the stats and reading spreadsheets to make decisions versus humans who are like, yeah, but I like it that way. That's what I prefer. I just want it to be that way. And you know what? In a free market, you can choose. In a central command economy, you don't get to. I like the warmth up to a point. I will say, since I got a decent set of headphones, where are they? I got a Bowers and Wilkins set of headphones last year. And I got to say, I am enjoying. I had to stop using just standard mode in my Spotify. I had to go to the high quality audio because I could hear the difference. I had to download all the songs onto my phone in the high quality, and I can't listen to a lot of the ones that I used to listen to because they're not available in the higher quality sound. They weren't mastered at that level. So yeah, I'm kind of like, I really enjoy the high quality audio, but unfortunately, a lot of the music that I enjoy wasn't made to that standard. Like Evanescence, that does not hold up well on good speakers. You can hear all of the distortion they added, all of the in the audio, and I loved it on shitty. When my little Daihatsu Charade with the shitty factory speakers, man, bring me to life on that. Just so good.
Do you know what? There's been this movement towards more analog tech for a while now. People are getting dumb phones. People are going back to vinyl. People are going back to film for cameras and stuff like that. And I think what it is that more like tangible process, that more hands-on approach. Even if you're just putting it into the VCR or putting it onto the record player, whatever, there's a connectedness to that we just don't have now. When everything's Bluetoothed and you just play and it's also manual. There's nothing that's connecting to you, that piece. Like I'll ask you guys in the chat. This is not the conversation I was expecting us to have, but here we are. So for example, as a kid, like I think most millennials, we would save up to get the album, right? You had to buy everything in albums. And you would listen to the album from start to finish, and you'd sit there with the book on your bed and you'd read all the lyrics and you'd look at the inside of the CD.
Yes.
And the artist used to write the album so that it starts this way and you go through this story and then end up there.
Yeah, you go on a journey with them.
And so what's happened with music, it then became all about the single. You had to have the hit breakout single and everyone would just do EPs all the time. But now what they do, there's a really good YouTube channel called Rick Beato. And he talks about this a lot. Now, because of short form video, like Reels and TikTok videos, people just need to have a hook. And so bands are writing songs just to have that 30-second hook that gets people in. And the rest of the song is irrelevant.
6 second.
Yeah. So, and if you go look at the Billboard charts or the Australian charts, they're all TikTok songs. And you would have heard them by the hook or the bridge that gets played in the reel. So
Yeah.
musicians aren't even connected to the experience anymore. And that's why we all feel like it's all slop. You know, people talk about AI slop. It's not AI slop. The humans were doing things for the algorithm. So it's actually us that's creating for the slop era. And I think people like even this, you know, this is a Post Malone record. He's one of my favorites artists. And I have never listened to this album from start to finish. I listened to the whole thing today and I was like, this is a really good album. Fantastic. I've never listened to it. I just pick out the songs I like. So anyway.
So someone made a comment about special effects in movies as well. And it's so true. The movies that did things with practical, you know, set extensions, you know, yes, okay, maybe some digital layered over the practical. You know, I absolutely adore the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended edit, of course. Please don't insult me by even asking. But the couple of times when they resorted to fully digital special effects are not aging well. They did a lot of miniatures. They did a lot of digital set extensions where a lot of it is practical. And then there's some digital sort of augmentation to it. A lot of that's holding up really well. A lot of that is not aging much as time goes by. But then there's just a couple of scenes in there where they went full digital, Treebeard's face being one for those of you that know it. The moment when Legolas swings himself up onto the horse is horrible. There's a couple of, and for me, it just breaks all the immersion. However, you then fast forward a decade or so to when they made the Hobbit movies and it was all digital and it's horrible. I hate it. Like it is technically superior. I agree that the technology on which the Hobbit was made was technically superior. The viewing experience is very much inferior. Give me that old school practical sets, practical special effects every day of the week.
Yeah, I've now ordered, you guys I think will be impressed with my musical taste. My very first record was Michael Jackson's Thriller and the Eagles' Greatest Hits, or The Long Way, Hell Freezes Over. I was like, surely that's some pretty good taste for your first two records. And I've just ordered Fleetwood Mac's Tango in the Night. So I feel like you got a problem with the Eagles, bro, or
can I make a confession?
Tell me that Fleetwood Mac is not great, or
I could not tell you the name of a single one of either of their songs.
Bro, I know you're uncultured, but that sometimes you just throw one at me that is inconceivable. You've never heard the song Hotel California?
I didn't say I've never heard them. I said I could not name you one. I don't know which songs they made. Doubtless I've heard them, probably in an elevator somewhere, or maybe walking down the middle aisle at Safeway. Doubtless I've heard them, Carly. I just have no idea which band made them.
Guys in the chat, I just bought Man of Colors by Icehouse. Like, tell me, these are good songs. These are good albums. Tell me, come on. Topher is just, I'm having this chat with the wall. Wow. God, look at that. Everyone's panicking in the chat. Like, wow, what did we sign up for?
I'm getting roasted in the comments, which I love. Now, I am not.
Hang on. What was
I am not ordering. No, wait. I'm not ordering Shania Twain. Man, I feel like a woman. But I will say that I have a very, very guilty crush relationship with the song "Uninvited" by Alanis Morissette.
Oh, okay.
I have a very, very complicated relationship with that song. If I ever hear it, and you never hear it, it's one of those ones that just doesn't get played. But on the very rare occasions when I hear it, I have to stop and find where it's coming from and listen to it till it's finished.
Guys, I need to know in the chat, I'm just curious, what was your first piece of physical music? So if you were in the record time, your first record, if it was a cassette, what was your first cassette? What was your first CD? Mine, do you want to guess it?
Not really. No, ask me to name a CD. I can't. I don't know.
This is terrible. This is tragic. My first cassette was very Australian. It was Kylie Minogue's I Should Be So Lucky. And yes, I can sing every song word for word. Don't even get me started. Oh dear. Anyway, I love reminiscing about music.
Alanis Morissette, Evanescence, get a bit of Blink 182 in there. and some, I don't know, some maybe white boy rap music, and that's a good mix right there.
God, I knew the Oddies wouldn't disappoint me. We've got some great Lion King cassette. Yes, I love that. Here we go. MJ's History, great taste. 1985 hottest hits, Black in Black, AC/DC. Guys, I'm impressed. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me. No, all of you step aside. Barbie Girl by Aqua.
That was your first CD.
That's where it's at. No. Like, just as a song. Like, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world made of plastic.
Guys, do you see what I put up with? In Excess, great album.
I know all of the words.
I have also, for any Metallica fans, just ordered S&M on vinyl. I feel like that's appropriate.
Sorry, was that BDSM?
Chat.
Sorry, I'm getting old. My ears are not working as well as they used to.
Do you not know what the S&M album is by Metallica? Oh.
Music
do
was never my
sit
thing.
You down and culturally give you a lesson? Is that what I need to do? Like, this is the Offspring's X-Nay on the Ombre. The reason we love this is this. This over here is NWA. Fuck the police. You would have been 5 when it came out, but you still resonated with it. It's like, what? I'm gonna guess
that you cannot sing word for word and note for note every single track in Anthony Wallow's On the Boards album.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Correct. You're not superior. You're different. I could rattle off a bunch of music crap. You're going to know none of it. I can sing along to all of it.
I'm so embarrassed, boy.
No.
Anyway, moving on. Guys, I hope all of you in the chat now appreciate that I have superior music taste and I'm playing it on vinyl. And no, do you know what the worst thing I ever did? I had a huge CD collection and I got rid of it all. I hate myself for doing it. Why did I do that? What an idiot. I'm talking like hundreds. I had every album, every single that I had ever loved. And I just took it to the op shop and was like, what an idiot. Why did I do that?
Do you want to know the first CD that I actually paid money for and actually bought rather than ripping?
Enya.
Who was it who sang, oh gosh, I can see her face. Who was it who sang Complicated? Why'd you have to go and make me
Avril Lavigne.
I bought my very first album was an Avril Lavigne album because I heard one of the songs and I was like, oh, who's this? And it's like, it's Avril Lavigne. Okay, never heard of her. I really like this. And they'd opened up a sanity store at the local Northland shopping center in Melbourne. They had a sanity store there for a little while. I'm like, I'm going to go in there and buy a CD to play in my Daihatsu Charade with the new CD playing head unit that I had just put in. And I'd upgrade it. I had a subwoofer in the boot. It floated around and slid around and slammed into the walls. And it had the amplifier was screwed into the top of it. But boy, it put out some bass. And I replaced, I put some 16x9s into the back parcel shelf, but the back parcel shelf wasn't physically secured. It was a lift back. And so it went up when the back went up. So when the bass really got going in the 16x9s, the parcel shelf would pop out of its holders. And I had new speakers, 6-inch speakers with tweeters in the doors. This thing, I tell you, when you turned it up, the windows were pulsing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy a CD to play in my brand new sound system. And I had just come across Avril Lavigne for the very first time. Did you know that there was literally no, not at all. There was literally one good song on that album, and it's the one they played on the radio. The rest of it was crap, and I never listened to it a second time.
That's a great album.
No.
So much for my happy ending. Oh, come on.
No, one good song.
Right. Well, guys in the chat, you've redeemed yourselves. I was worried, but I'm so grateful. Someone just had a crack and said Kylie Minogue is not superior taste. I'll have you know she's an Aussie treasure, especially her album with Locomotion on it. So I will not hear any bad words about Kylie. She was great live. She's a spectacular entertainer.
I could believe that, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Little niche knowledge about me. I worked in the music industry for about 3 years.
Is this a what's tangent?
Tangent time.
Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time. Where you go, Carly?
Why don't we put that on a vinyl? That's some great merch.
I tell you what, the warmer it gets, the better it'll sound.
So when I was working as a graphic designer, I had a job at an agency that serviced purely the Mushroom Group, and we did all the artwork for A Day on the Green. And so all of the cornerstone Aussie bands that you know, like Daryl Braithwaite, Jimmy Barnes, Hoodoo Gurus, Bloody John Farnham, all of them, right? All the legends of the 80s. I designed so many bits for artwork for Day on the Green posters, and my favorite one to this day was Ice House. And it was so interesting because like my boss would come in and she'd be like, these are the people on the Day on the Green, like we're going to make something for that. And I'd be sitting there going, I don't know who that is. And she's like, right. And we'd have these sessions where we'd pull up Spotify and she'd just be naming tracks. It was like having a jam session. And I'd be like, oh, I did know this song. I just didn't know that, you know, that band sung it or whatever. And she was like, she'd been in the Aussie music industry for the whole time. And she's like, I just don't know what happened. Like we were so talented. We had like Australian rock was at the top of the charts. And then it all just went, and now you've got friggin' Kelly Holiday. You know, what happened?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that can be said about a lot of the arts. I would suggest that government money got involved with a lot of the arts, and that really ruined a lot of things.
Yeah, it's just sad. Like, do you know who Ice House is? If I bring that up, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, that particular album, Man of Colours, you've got Great Southern Land, you've got Electric Blue, and Hey Little Girl. And Electric Blue was my favorite song as a little kid. Like, just could not get enough of that. And I would listen to that, and then Ian Moss, Trucker's Daughter. Those two songs, right? And my dad would put them on, and I'd just lose my shit. And then going and seeing them perform that, like years later, I would have been in my 20s, right? So, and I saw them sing those songs, and they were just riffing on stage and playing around. These guys were all in their like late 50s, 60s by this time. And there was so much talent on stage, and I was just truly in awe that those songs, like from a little girl listening to it with my dad to seeing them play them, 20 years later or whatever, I can't name a single band that would give me that same feeling today, that like, there's a song that just resonates and I can't get enough of it. And then I go see it live and I fall in love with it again. I miss that experience. And I don't think that's because I'm getting older. I think it's because of the connection. I talked before about the whole having to wait for the single to come out to buy the single, or having to wait for the album to come out to buy the album, and then you listen to the whole thing in a night. We just don't do that anymore. We don't live like that. And we're also not slow with our consumption. Like a song comes up on the radio, you Shazam it, you instantly add it to your playlist, and then it comes up randomly and you hear it lo-fi in your headphones. It's like, it's sad. Do you not think?
Right. A couple of comments along this line. Pokies ruined it. No live music now. Pokies, okay, they killed atmosphere. But actually the cost of having a beer at the pub is so high now that a lot of the venues can't afford to pay the musicians. They can't make enough money off the beers. People don't come and have a big session. They come and have maybe two, or they pre-drink at home, and they come and you've got the pub has to deal with a sloppy drunk, but they only sold 2 drinks to the person. And so, I do think, honestly, government money in the arts and government meddling in the entertainment industry, those two things together have a lot to answer for on this front.
Yeah. I'm just reading the chats. I'm glad it's not just me. Like, the first name of the album was Flowers. Yes, I do remember that. But yeah, I think like the thing is, yes, we can say this about the industry. I think collectively as humans, we are craving this. I think everyone is craving that connection again. And I don't know, I think, people are jumping off into little hobbies like film and all that, like I said, but I think if more people had like these outlets, we wouldn't have everyone arguing on the internet about a man being able to be a woman. I really don't think we would have this.
All right. Did you like Richmond North of Richmond?
I do know that song. Yeah. That's the guy in the
forest.
Did
you like it?
Yeah. It's all right.
Because that was like that speaks to people that are really into sort of your more country or your more folksy sort of music. But that is a song that I think for a lot of people did hit a lot of the same nerves, because I think part of the reason why we fall in love with songs, particularly through those those developmental years, is because a lot of them are written about sort of the struggles that we have during that time, the clashes with our parents, the search for identity and meaning, they're just trying to get by and understand the world, the relationship breakups. A lot of these songs are written about the stuff that in that phase of life we can really relate to. And I think, I can't think of his name, but the guy that wrote Rich Men North of Richmond, I think he did a really good job of capturing something that a lot of older people, people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s go, oh yeah, that thing right there, I relate to that. And so I wonder if also there's a degree to which you've kind of grown out of that phase of life where most of these artists are aiming their music and their content and their angst and all of their observation at a phase of life that you've kind of moved through. I'm not trying to call you old, but I'm saying that you're a bit haggard.
Well, that's how I feel about Linkin Park, Meteora, that album particularly. My God, every time I hear it, I'm transported back to my childhood bedroom, sitting on the bed, just being angsty with my parents.
Yeah. Crawling in my skin, all that stuff, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, this was not meant to be a music podcast. I was just sharing a new hobby, and here we are, like 20 minutes later.
Where
Sorry,
we're going,
guys.
we don't need plans. That's the entire tagline.
To be fair, we were making up for the tangents that we didn't have the last 3 episodes, so you're welcome.
It's true.
Okay,
right,
so guys in the chat, you can steer us for the next couple of topics. 1, we have got the UK. 2, we've talked about Roxy Tickle. We've got the reaction to the Aussie budget, the federal budget, and
the polls. Yep.
This is a little outlier, but this has all sort of happened in the last in the afternoon. I don't know what was the catalyst to this, but everyone on X is currently going through our federal MPs' expense reports for the last 3 months, particularly, so Jan to March, and we've got some stuff on that. So, guys, I don't know if you know this, but we are paying for our politicians' insurance excess when they have a bingle. Did you know that?
Wow. Okay, so we're getting a lot of votes for UK though. So UK,
all right.
UK, Tommy, because Tommy, and there's more. So probably got to do the UK.
All right, let's go. Do you want to bring it in then? Tell us what happened in the UK.
Well, I don't have any images. Do you want to see if you see what you can find in terms of cutaways, images, news reports, these sorts of things? Okay. So in the UK, there was essentially a pro-UK rally being planned. And isn't it amazing? Just stop and think about the fact that if you want to have a pro-UK rally in the UK, you can't wait for the government to organize it for you. The people of the UK have to get together and make it happen and beg the government for permission to be allowed to do it. Isn't that amazing? So there was, of course, yet another sort of pro-Middle East, pro-Palestine, whatever protest going on the same day. And so they had the military, the police, and armored vehicles out in force around the streets of London, making sure that these two groups didn't clash. Because, of course, those evil right-wing extremists, those people that actually love their country. I know, but we're not allowed to execute them yet. We've got to wait for that day. So we just have to tolerate them for the time being. They were out on the street, and I tell you what, the phenomenal scale. I actually, when I first saw the first couple of videos, I went, that's got to be AI. There is no way. There is no way that that's actually real. And I've investigated a little bit. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know any individual video clip or what have you. I can't vouch for it being AI or not being AI. But I tell you, the crowds were unbelievable. There are estimates. I mean, there are always estimates as, far and wide, people who were there and want to cite big numbers will come up with big numbers, and their haters will come up with small numbers. But this was hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people. This was a phenomenal effort. And what was interesting was the UK government tried to stop actually succeeded in stopping a bunch of people from getting in, including Ezra Levant from Rebel News, among others. But a few people did get in. So Rebel News did still have a journalist there. Nick Shirley from the US, the guy that's been blowing the whistle on the Minnesota fraud with the childcare centers, he was able to make it in and do a speech. And of course, Tommy Robinson, he has become a cultural icon who I think, his journey's not done yet. I think he will end up rivaling your Robin Hoods for sort of folklore value. I genuinely believe that he's going to end up as an iconic cultural figure who will live on for many hundreds of years after his death and probably end up you know, his name will end up being different and his deeds will end up being different, but he will be remembered in some sort of a lionized, idolized form for many, many hundreds of years to come. Does that picture or video zoom out anywhere? Because I tell you,
so it plays. I won't play the music.
Can you mute it for us? It's genuinely unbelievable. And Carly, you'd remember from when we were doing the protests in Melbourne, once a protest gets beyond literally only about 10,000 people, it becomes impossible to actually convey on camera how big it really is. Like there isn't a single vantage point anymore that can convey that. If you throw up a drone, it always looks a lot smaller than what it is. But on the ground, you just get this sense like it's just an endless sea of people. And I've seen video footage for, you know, these massive wide boulevards completely chock-a-block with people going out in multiple directions. And again, I don't know. I can't vouch for any individual bit of footage, what's AI and what's not. I don't know. Maybe they're all real. I don't know. But I can tell you there were, I mean, you just look at that, you get a sense for just how far back this goes. And these are people, just UK people, who just want to have the UK belong to the people of the UK. That's their crime. They're being criminalized by their government. They're being demonized in the media. They're being called all kinds of names. And they literally just want to say, hey, listen, yeah, here we go. Yeah. All they're saying is we want the UK of today to be more like the UK that we were born in. That's literally what they're saying. And they're being criminalized for it.
I'm not going to play another reel, but did I play my reel last week where I was talking about the media, talking about the rise of the right? Did I play that?
I've seen it. I don't remember if I saw it on the show or not.
Part of me wants to play it, but so what I talked about in that is the media will tell you it's far right, but what it is actually a move towards common sense. This isn't far right at all. People just want what is, to quote, normal, right? People want to know that a man is a woman. People want to know that they can afford to buy basic groceries, that they can aim to buy a house one day, and that their kids are going to be safe. Their kids aren't going to get slashed by a machete. These aren't right-wing talking points. And, you know, you talk about dystopian, and we talk about groupthink and ideology, and this is very much 1984 stuff, right? So people just want like a connection to the past that they know we've had before. It's not about being white Australia. And so the comments on my reel, it did really well. But when I got pushback from people, they're like, oh, these are all far right populist talking ideas. I'm like, they're not. Talking points, did you not watch my reel? I said these aren't far right talking points. This is just common sense. But the issue is the media and the politicians of the day have demonized people to have this, like, bless you, this insane perspective that reality is no longer real. And you must swallow the Kool-Aid and accept that this new dystopian detached reality is real. And there's an article in, it was about the Soviet Union. I'm trying to think of the name of the author. You know how we keep saying it's
you're talking about Solzhenitsyn?
Yeah, we keep saying it's him. It's not actually, he never said that. The quotes
about they were lying. We knew they were lying. They knew that we knew that they were lying.
It's actually not his quote. It's been mistakenly attributed to him. So it's actually a woman who writes about her experience growing up in the Soviet bloc. And she talks about, you know, everyone was going along with it, kind of like what I said before, right? I said the reason we now have men going into change rooms is because so few people spoke up. That's what it is. For so long, people just accepted that what these politicians were telling you was the truth, and everything that you knew, everything that felt inherently correct, you started double guessing yourself, you know, and just going, oh, maybe I am wrong about that. Maybe I am racist. And the white privilege one's the biggest one. You know, this lie that you've been sold that we need to carry some sort of ancestral guilt for things that were done 300 years ago, but you know. The Persians didn't need to carry that guilt. The Africans didn't need to carry that guilt. The Apache Indians didn't need to carry that guilt. It was just specifically a white problem in this particular era. And so when you start teasing these arguments with people out, I'm like, okay, so if white settlers have to feel guilty for what happened to the Aboriginals, why aren't the British feeling bad for sending all the white people over in chains to this new land and that had to build it from scratch? Like,
better yet, I'm actually really grumpy that the Indigenous people of Australia were just so shameless in their cultural appropriation. I mean, you see them, they're driving Western cars, they're speaking our language, they're wearing our clothes, a lot of them are eating our food. I think that is incredibly disrespectful, and they don't give us the credit we deserve. And quite frankly, they owe us reparations because they took and appropriated our culture and our technology, which they did not help to develop, and they did not pay us a damn cent for it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about government waste in a second, but when you look at the numbers of the money that we spend on things that don't actually move us collectively as a society forward, you understand the game. No one's actually, I shouldn't say no one, I shouldn't generalize, but few people in parliament actually want to see change. What they want is to get their way and to ensure they get re-elected.
Correct.
And so the UK is a great example of this. I mean, the Tories lost in a landslide because they deserved to. I mean, Boris Johnson let more people, let more migrants into the country than any other politician. And the reason was, where did I see this? It was on X. One of his ex-chief of staff, Boris Johnson's ex-chief of staff, came out and said the reason he did it, even though he was a conservative, is he was so worried about getting people offside who were political donors or the press.
Yeah.
And so he allowed, I think it was I could be wrong with the numbers. I think it was 4 million. Don't quote me on that. It was a lot of people. And that's who the Tories allowed all the migrants in. And then they lost in a landslide, understandably. And then the pendulum swung to Labor, who's now Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer has gone, hold my beer. I'm going to make it even worse. And then you've had all these things pop up. That the worst one is, in my opinion, the worst one to pop up is the Pakistani rape gangs. And they still won't investigate. They still won't acknowledge it. But the kicker, I think, was is it Southbridge? The little girls at the Taylor Swift tribute show, or the little girls who got stabbed by the Muslim extremist?
Oh, well, I mean, there was that, and there was also the bombing at the Ariana Grande concert. But like deliberately targeting underage, particularly girls. Yeah. And the UK government's reaction was to basically sweep it under the rug. That's kind of like Tommy Robinson started the rally around the Southbridge one, didn't he? So there's a couple of interesting things here. So now what we've got is Keir Starmer has tanked. His opinion polls are the worst of any, I think maybe any, but certainly most UK prime ministers in history. We're watching Reform clean up at the local council elections. Yes, they don't control all of the councils. That's because not all of the councils have had an election since their rise. It's a little bit like One Nation. They don't control parliament yet. It's because there hasn't been a general election. So hold your horses, give it time. But this is a good question here. And I know a lot of people have this question in the back of their mind. This is Itken Reza. Apologies for pronunciation there. So Topher, you talk a lot about Reform, but have you seen the branch off Restore Party? They're infinitely better than Reform and gaining steam. So this is where the differences between the Australian electoral system and the UK electoral system become really, really important. And this is one of the reasons why I am as positive as I am about the Australian preferential voting system. So in the UK, they don't have a preferential voting system. It's a first past the post system. And so when you have two parties that are at least that they claim to be similar, I know Restore say, no, we're completely different, and Reform have sold out and all the rest. I get what their shtick is. I know what their marketing is, but they're very, very similar parties competing for the same electorate, the same voters. The reality is in the UK system, that's a really, really bad situation to get into. Now, I understand the argument. The argument is basically that Reform UK are compromised, that Farage has kind of sold out. He's done a bit of a deal with the devil. You look at some of the staff around him and some of the candidates that he's running, and you go, okay, these are people who are compromising. They're not going to follow through. Well, give them a chance. I think maybe they very well would actually. The political incentives have changed significantly, and people change their behaviour when the incentives change. But I understand Reform's argument. The problem is that vote splitting is a very real problem in the UK. It's not in Australia. We could have another party similar to, like we can have a Gerard Rennick People First. We can have other parties that are kind of competing with One Nation for votes. But thanks to the preferential system, it doesn't hurt One Nation's chances. Or if these other parties got bigger, it wouldn't hurt their chances. In the UK, it does. And so I got to tell you, as much as Restore, I think, are doing great things. Yes, they won all 10 council seats they ran for. Okay, but there's a reason they only ran for 10 council seats. They lack institutional capacity. I bang on about this and people roll their eyes. Institutional capacity is a thing. If you want to govern a country, you'd bloody well better be able to put forward candidates in every seat and have at least 90% of them not be numpties, not be idiots. If you don't have the capacity to do that, to pre-select, to run those branches and to have the correct processes in place for that, then you're not ready to rule. You're not ready to govern. Now, Restore are very new. Granted, Restore are extremely new, and institutional capacity takes time. I'm not saying they won't get there. Right now, they're nowhere near there. Reform have an enormous amount of momentum. They've got budget, and I'm sorry, but you don't win elections. You can rag on big money donors and whatever all you want. You don't win elections without a marketing budget. I'm sorry. You have to get the people that aren't paying attention to vote for you. That's the reality of politics. So I'm concerned that Restore, what's his name, Rupert Lowe, unfortunately, let's be honest, what he's doing stems from a grudge. He was with the Reform Party. The Reform Party threw him under a bus. Depending on which side of that issue you're on, you either think the bus was justified or you think that's Nigel Farage sold him out. I'm not gonna make a call on that either way. I haven't done enough research on that. But he's then gone and started a competitive party that is going to split that vote, is not ready to actually contribute in a meaningful way yet. I'm concerned that the Restore Party could end up being a wrecking ball and may actually give Keir Starmer an opportunity to go to the polls early, split the Reform vote, and come out on top himself.
I think what worries me about the UK is it's literally looking at Australia if we don't get things right in our next couple of elections. And I think we're actually seeing similar things happen here, right? We've got the people on, I don't know how else to explain it, so I'm not trying to be insulting, but you got the people on the far right, like the fringe right, who are saying that one nation are bought and paid for by Israel and, don't vote for Pauline. And I've seen, was it Big Chocky say that? Two Worlds Collide said that. Other people are saying like, oh, one nation's not the solution you want them to be or think they are. I'm like, okay, then who? One nation as it stands, and to be fair and to be completely transparent, I don't necessarily agree with all their policies, but when presented with our options, Greens, Labor, Liberal, One Nation, they're the only four that have enough momentum. I'm going to pick One Nation. Yeah. I'm not saying that I wholly support One Nation, but the more we see people fracture to try and dilute the vote, I'm like, okay, who are you voting for? Gerard Reddick, he's one person. He's not even in Parliament at the moment. Okay, so so what I hear from that, and you see this in the UK as well. Here, when we look at the far right, again, I don't want to use that word, but that's the best way to explain it for the sake of this argument. Their whole thing comes down to Israel. I'm not voting for them because of Israel. I'm going to vote for Gerard Reddick. Why? Because he said the populist thing to get you on side. He said that it's the Jews and it is Israel. It's running the world. Okay, cool. What's he going to do? How is one man going to help us get this country on track? He can't. You need the momentum of a party that's able to get people to agree on commonalities, not just fringe issues like that. Because there's a lot of people who don't think our direct issue is Israel. It's the fact that we have, youths stabbing us with machetes. We've got fucking men walking into female change rooms. Like, on the list of things that we have to worry about, can we just get the things in our front yard audited first?
We've got people who worked and paid taxes all their lives and are now going hungry and without heating. Like that, let's deal with some of that.
And so when we see people splitting hairs over these fringe issues, like, and I'm not saying you guys can't think that and no one can think that. You can question it. That's fine. But we have to fucking work together. We have to. Because the alternative is that Labor's losing favor. They just need the Greens to form a government. Like that's what you're looking at. The more you fracture things and the more you confuse everyone on our side of the fence, the more chance you give Labor and Greens forming a minority government. Like that's where you're at. Is that what you want? Like, and this is
Yeah.
where I get so frustrated with the political process because, I mean, we see it all day on X, people putting up stupid things that aren't true. And, you know, it's misinformation, or it's because they've got a vendetta against the Jews or Israel. And so they're going to put up all this stuff to try and deter you from that, whatever. Right. And we see that on the left. I'm just calling out the right specifically. And it's like, cool. So we just get even worse than what we currently have. You're so unhappy with what we have now.
Yeah.
You want more of it?
Yeah.
You're going to vote for more of it? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I saw again today, someone jumped into one of my videos in the comments today and was banging on about how, you know, if voting made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it. I'm like, okay, dude, like, honestly, please just shut up and fuck off. Like, go and find a hole, crawl into it, and curl up and die. Because clearly, there's no hope anymore, is there? Right? Let's not even. Why are we even bothering to breathe? We wouldn't be allowed to breathe if they didn't want us to do it. Breathing makes you part of the problem. Gosh, like, how far do you take this kind of logic? Not that it is logic, but, you know, sorry, guys. We have what we have today because people in previous generations fought for us to have it without knowing in advance what the outcome was going to be. So don't sit here and tell me, oh, it's not worth it because they've got it all. We're not assured of victory and therefore it's not worth the fight. You shouldn't even try. No, sorry. You are at best, you are naive, but actually in actual fact, you're probably a double agent. You're probably actually working for the other side. I'm sorry. I reject outright any influence from someone that takes that view. I have a moral responsibility to my kids to give them a better future or to die trying. It's one of those two. And I am betraying both my ancestors and my kids if I don't at least do everything in my power. I don't get to control the outcome. I'm not that big, but I do control what I do. And I'm responsible to make sure that I play my part. And I'm sorry, anyone that wants to cop out of that, you're a grub. You're a freeloading grub. You're enjoying freedom that was given to you by others who sacrificed, and you're not willing to make a sacrifice yourself.
Yeah. And this is where I think the role you and I play and other new media, if you will. And I know there's a lot of people who are kind of like perturbed with Carlz doing what he's doing. But guys, we have to find common ground. And, you know, we can split hairs later. But right now, we have to come together. And it's the same with, like, we're seeing in the US. I mean, Donald Trump's up for the midterms in November, the same time Victoria goes to the polls. And, you know, you can see all the infighting. How does that help? And what gets me is you're doing exactly the same thing that the left do to each other, that you're not pious enough, you're not woke enough, you're not on the right social justice issue, so you keep getting kicked out of the hive mind. It's now happening on the right. If you even say even the nicest thing about Israel or the Jews, boom, you're not down the rabbit hole enough. You haven't looked at it. Do more research. You don't understand. It's like,
that's right.
Okay, and what? What is the end goal of that? Okay, you get to the end of the rabbit hole and you get that little pot of honey and you figure out the laws of the universe. Now what? How the fuck are you going to get a huge majority of the country to vote for because you did the research and you know more than everyone. You are the all-seeing eye. How do you, random person down that rabbit hole, convince more than half of the population to vote for the candidate you think is the right one? Like, are you fucking kidding? Like, I'm getting worked up because that's the stupidity of it. That is the stupidity of it. One nation aren't the be all end all. They're not perfect. No fucking politician is. None of them are. But if we don't get on board, if we don't use this momentum, we end up with another Labor government, or worse, a Labor Greens minority government. That's your alternative. That is where it goes. Get on board or get even worse than what we have now. And we've seen what happens when you get a Labor government in the UK. Australia will go down that road. We will see mass migration of people from countries who do not like us. And if you think it's bad now, wait until they open the floodgates. Can you even fathom what a Greens Labor minority government would look like? Can you even imagine what that would do to our country in just 3 years? That's your alternative. If you want to sit here and split hairs on Israel and talk about the Jews, be my guest. I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. But the more you do that, the more likely it is that we end up with a Greens Labor minority government. That's your alternative. So if you want that, great. Let's do it.
Come together right now over me.
No, all I can think about is that All I want to say is that they don't really care about us.
care about us. All right. So here's a good comment here from Daniel Moore. I love Jared Rennick and thanks for preferential voting. I always tell people who say they are voting for micro parties to make sure they put One Nation above the major parties so it stops with One Nation. This is exactly my point. This is why I genuinely, sincerely believe that Australia's preferential voting system is actually excellent. Not perfect. We'll come to that in just a second because there's another question here that's relevant. But I think it's very, very good because you can say, hey, I love Jared Rennick, the People First Party. I'm going to put them at number one. And just as long as you preference One Nation above Liberal, Labor and National and Greens, you're all good. The net result is the same. You've given your first preference to People First. And hey, if lightning strikes and they've got a great candidate and they happen to go really well, they could win that. But if they don't, you've supported One Nation. The UK first past the post system, the American first past the post system, you don't get that option. You can't vote for Restore and then put Reform in as your second or third or fourth option. You don't get that choice. And I genuinely believe that our system is better for exactly that reason. Channel Master 73 says, so Topher, do you think voting should be mandatory or optional like the US? Is that not some cognitive dissonance? I'm not sure that I've made a comment on that, so I'm not sure where the cognitive dissonance comment comes from. But anyway, I'll put that aside. Voting should be optional for the same reason that everything should be voluntarist. There should be no compulsion, right? I think it's better if everyone votes. I think that actually leads to superior outcomes, but I do not believe in coercion or force. So therefore, it should be absolutely voluntary. I also believe, so for example, right now we have mandatory voting. If you've signed up with the AEC, you have to vote or else they'll punish you. And then also they require you to number every box. I think you should be allowed to stop whenever you want. Now, when you actually do the maths, it doesn't change the outcome. People get their knickers in and, I'm being forced to choose. I'm being forced to give a number to the Labor Party. Listen, you put Labor and Greens last and second last. The only way that your vote comes into play, the only way that your vote reaches one of them is if it's down to the Greens and Labor. Right? It's your vote will not get to them if anyone else is still in play because you gave everyone else a higher number. The only circumstances under which your vote ever ends up with them is if literally every other candidate has been knocked out, at which point it makes no difference to you, right? You've already lost. I don't see why people get their knickers in a knot about this. However, at a principled level, sure, it should be voluntary, 100%.
What about this one from Pro Engineer?
Okay, so I was in favor of national service for many, many years, and I will say that my time in the Army Reserve did me a power of good. It really did. However, no, I don't believe in slavery, and therefore neither do I believe in conscription. But I think responsible parenting involves getting your kids deeply involved in volunteer work, charitable work, preferably physically demanding work. Get involved with the SES, get involved with charities that do stuff. Worst case scenario, go and volunteer at a local op shop. Like just do something. Get your kids involved in something that is a form of service. So this is one of those situations where I say, is national service, in some form, I'm not going to say military specifically, but is service to your community a good thing? 100% yes. Should it be mandatory? No.
I disagree with you in a second, slightly, just with your wording. You said, I don't believe in slavery. I understand why you said that, but I really do think, and look, I'm not a parent, but, I was a kid once. I think there is such a lack of life skills in our youth today that putting them through something, I'm not saying they have to go in the army and then potentially get, sent over for war. That's not what I'm suggesting, but some kind of, I'm going to say manual labor, and I don't necessarily mean they need to go dig ditches, but something where they learn to be hands-on, whether it's like they're going out and building fences in a rural property, they're going out and, learning how to work with the sheep, or they're learning to do something, right? And the reason being, and I know this from seeing it with my brother, my parents made my brother do all the way up to year 12, and he should have been out in a trade in year 10. He was your typical kid that couldn't sit still, hated school. All of his friends went off and got apprenticeships, and my parents were like, no, you are getting your year 12 certificate so that you can go and do something with your life, right? Like they were the typical boomers in their mind that university was the be all end all. And so I watched my brother like struggle through high school. He should have been out being a plumber at like 15. He would have owned a house at 22, right? But there's this been this perception that manual labor is beneath us. We're a first world country. We would never get our hands dirty. And I saw a reel, I saw a reel on Instagram. I should have saved it, but it was brilliant. It was this young Aussie plumber. And if anyone knows who it is, let me know. I think it went fairly viral. And what it was is he was going under the crawl space under a house. And I don't know anything about plumbing, so forgive me. I'm just going to use like basic words. But the pipe that comes down from the toilet that goes under the house that takes it towards the sewerage area, that had
your grey
disconnected.
water. Yeah. Yeah.
So essentially, all of the excrement was literally just pumping out under the house. And they didn't
Charming.
know this for a long time. So it had been building up for quite a
Oh.
time. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on, like things aren't working. And I think what eventually ended up happening was the toilet blocked and it was coming back up. Anyway, so he's gone under the crawl space and he's figured out what the issue is. And the comments were telling, this is why I always read the comment section. So yeah, dirty job, right? Gross.
Yeah.
And so he's a young kid. I don't know his age. I'm going to say like ballpark 24, somewhere there, right? And he went under that crawl space and said, just another day. And he went in there and he just moved it out of the way and he put the pipe on and he did the thing. And then, he filmed it all like as you do these days. It didn't happen if you didn't get it on your iPhone. And he showed it all and showed the whole process. I've never watched a plumbing video so intently. And then it was all work and it was all fixed and he cleaned up all the excrement, right? Anyway, the comments were outrageous. People like, just burn the house down. I wouldn't have done it. I hope you charge $50,000. And he's like, but I'm a plumber. That's literally my job. That's my whole purpose.
Yeah, this is what I fix.
Job.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because I think these days we're so spoiled and I hate saying the word privileged, but buzzword. We are privileged because you can call someone to do everything for you. You want your house cleaned, you can get someone. We want food delivered, you can get someone. But, this is where Peter Malinowskis made that slip up and he's like, who's going to wipe our bums? Like he kind of had a point. Because who is going to wipe our bums? We don't want to do it.
Yeah. How to tell if you've got some degree of autism?
Unclogging drains.
Guilty as charged. Guilty. I understand the fascination. I understand the satisfaction. You want the noise. I find it's the noise when it finally goes and it all just happens. It's great. Anyway, so can I say I agree with everything you said. And I think one of the greatest things a parent can do for their kids is teach them discipline, teach them sacrifice, teach them volunteering, teach them to push through the hard, icky, awful stuff. And yes, there's a lot of kids that have been pushed into university. It's happening less now, but there was a generation, our generation, particularly Carly, where kids that should not have gone to uni were being made to finish high school and keep going through. And it's been really bad for them. And we had that with a trades shortage, which we're being bitten in the bum with as we speak. But I still don't think it should be mandatory. I think it's good. But I don't think it should be mandatory. And my slavery comment, I mean, I talk about this. Taxation is extortion. Inflation is theft. Now, why? Well, inflation's theft because it happens secretly. Taxation is extortion because it happens openly. They'll send standover men to your door if you don't pay up. But conscription is slavery. I'm sorry. That's what it is. We will take a portion of your life.
Hang on. Do you mean conscription with deployment? Do you know what I mean? Like, when we talk about the reserves, you were never going to be deployed. We weren't at war. So
I could have been deployed had something kicked off, but no, I never was deployed. But no, whether you're deployed or not, that is the government saying we have the right. Because you were born on our turf, we're the gang that runs this particular piece of turf, and because you're on my turf, I get to tell you what you have to do for 2 years. And if you're lucky and there's no war, then well done you. If there's a war, we're going to send you out there into the meat grinder, and you get no say in that. That is a form of slavery, and I am not a fan of slavery, no matter what degree it comes in. I cannot support state-sponsored slavery. I cannot support taxation. I cannot support conscription.
Pro Engineers just followed up here by saying, I'm not saying you have to do service, but if you don't, you can't vote.
So I would go a different way. I think what we want to do is make sure that voting is in the hands of people that actually have skin in the game. And what I mean by that is the people that are actually paying for the government that is taking their money. Right. So
I would go as far as saying, I've said this before, I think the voting age should be lifted. I really do. And I know people have bit back at me before and saying like, oh, that's not fair because the young ones want to vote for their future. I think there should be a level of life experience and being out in the world before you're able to make decisions that you might not understand what you're voting for. And I understand there's nuance to that. And I understand we can split the hairs over that. But, a lot of these young ones, right? I think I brought this up last time. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but her name's Hannah Ferguson. She runs Cheek Media. She's 22.
Yep.
Did I bring this up yet?
Yeah, well, not this episode, no.
Oh, so
You
okay,
talked
so
about it last episode.
yeah, so Hannah Ferguson, 22, she's and like hats off to her. She's done a thing. She's built a social media audience and she's very
Yep.
progressive, right? Very left-leaning. But she made a comment and I can't get past this comment. And it was something about like someone made a disparaging comment towards her and said, "Oh, you know, you're 22, what do you know?" And her clapback was, "I'm 22 and I have a master's degree." And like, guys, drink. But you know, in their mind, they're like, "Oh, I've got a master's degree." You don't understand. It's like, but dude, you're 22. You've never left the institution. You've gone from high school to university. You did a 3.5-year bachelor, and then you've done 2 years of masters. Like, you have no real world. Your face has been in a book your whole life. And but in her mind, so the reason I bring her up is she's a good example. I'm not trying to dunk on her, but she's 22. She started a media company that's very progressive. She's the one that said that BRS should be in jail and also that we need to be more empathetic to the ISIS brides. So that's kind of how extreme her ideas are. But in that, so she's had her nose in the book her whole life. And so in her mind, these things make sense. She's never had to live in the real world and see the consequences to this. She's never been alive when we were at war and I understood what that means. So when I say lift the voting age, I'm like, yeah, there's a responsibility with voting. If it's going to be compulsory, like everyone has to vote, I don't think you should be doing it when you're young. That's my opinion.
Okay. So this is where I'm at. If you're not paying for the government that you are selecting, that you're voting for, then you don't get to vote for it. If you are not contributing to the costs that you're imposing, then you don't get to have a say in who it is. And I think if we were simply to say only a net taxpayer, you have to have paid more into the system than you have used in welfare and benefit and middle class welfare, blah, blah, blah. And I tell you what, all the middle class welfare would disappear real quick. If the only people who had a say in who the government was were the people that were net paying, not the people who were net receiving, we would see some pretty big reforms pretty quick. And we would see the debt gone, spending down, and we would be able to live a lot more freely than what we do. So my position is the people that are taking money should not get a say in who the government is.
What about seniors and people on pensions who were taxpayers most of their life? What about them?
So if they're still earning, if they're still paying tax, if they've got investments that are paying them money, they've got properties, they've got shares, they've got whatever else, then they're still net taxpayers. If they're on a pension, they are now net welfare recipients. And no, sorry, you need to organize. If you want to be able to vote into your old age, you better organize yourself to be paying taxes into your old age. That's the price you pay. Now, here's a really good question. So James W. Bennett said, Topher, was conscription slavery in 1942 and the Japanese were threatening invasion? Yes. Yes, it was. See, the thing with the principle is that it doesn't change depending on circumstances. It's a principle. If you change your principles based on what's going on in the world, then it's a position, not a principle. I'm opposed to slavery in all of its forms. There are no excuses. Now, here's the funny thing about national defense. If we had a war right now, we would struggle to raise a large number of volunteers. We would get some. There are lots of people who would line up, but we wouldn't see the cues like what we saw during World War II of volunteers. And yes, okay, they did also use conscription. They used it again during Vietnam, but we wouldn't see that. And my question is, why not? And if we can figure out the answer to that question and fix that problem, then we won't need conscription. There are two problems. We've spent 25 years being told, probably more, but 25 years being hardcore told that Australia is not worth defending, that we're the problem, that we're evil and we're guilty, and that we should be ashamed of ourselves. If the government puts out a call and says, who will defend Australia? Well, I'm not going to blame a young person who's 25 years old and been brought up with nothing but a diet of shame and misery to go, no, fuck that. I'm not going to show up and fight and die for Australia. Australia's a racist country. It's a horrible place. We have taken away all, like, what are we asking them to fight for? Right. So number one, we've destroyed what Australia is in reality. Yeah. It's a country where they have no future. It's a country where they don't feel like they've got any financial hope. And it's a country where they're ashamed to be. Of course, they're not going to jump out there and volunteer. So my solution to a recruiting problem is to say, well, how about we get right down to the very, very root of the problem and make Australia worth defending again? Let's actually be proud of who we are. Let's remember what makes us special, that we are a country with the rule of law, with equality before the law. We're a country that respects hard work, where people can come from nowhere and be tremendously successful. There is opportunity and freedom and liberty in this country that is historically exceptionally rare. There are very few places on earth. That's what makes Australia Australia. It's not the land that we're on or which particular type of food we like to eat at night. It is the celebration of the work ethic. Bludgers are the public enemy number one. Not so much now, but they used to be. Everyone hates a bludger, right, in Australia. Well, it's not quite true anymore, is it? It used to be. Nowadays, people can be bludgers. Correct. We need to get back to some of the fundamental Australian ethics that made us who we were, because they were worth defending. And if we do that, then this question of, well, what about conscription in a time of war? It won't be necessary. If we get back to being who we were and who we can be again, there will be plenty of volunteers.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I want to spitball an idea with you guys in the chat in a second, but you're talking about Australian values. It's now incentivized for people to think they have some kind of ailment or some disability, right? We see that with the youth all the time. And I keep bringing up that clip of the girls on the ABC interview saying, I'm just waiting to get my autism diagnosis, as if it's like, I'm just waiting to graduate, And to be fair, and like, just to be really clear, because I do get accused of this all the time, when I make my generalizations, I of course understand there's people who are genuinely disabled. So just to clarify, anyone who's genuinely disabled, one of my clients has no arms and no legs, okay? Like, she's got stumps from the thighs down, and she's got one stump on the left hand, and the right is like she's got a small bit past the elbow, okay? And someone like that, obviously, they need support. I think that goes without saying. And I get really frustrated when people straw man me when I talk about this stuff. But a lot of the people, what they have, and I mean this in all sincerity, what they have is a self-esteem issue. They don't know, they have no self-worth. And so many of us who have ever worked for anything, who have ever built anything, it doesn't matter whether you're building a car from scratch or you built a company from scratch or you're really proud about the work that you do. There is something about doing something yourself and figuring it out and building something that builds incredible amounts of pride. It makes you stand 2 inches taller. And we have deprived so many of our kids from that. It starts with the participation ribbons. It starts with mum and dad coming in saying, oh, little Johnny doesn't want to do homework. We find it's really stressful for him. All that nonsense. And then what you have, and I'm really harsh on Gen Z. I know that.
Yeah.
But Gen Z, not all, but many of them are just so void of self-worth that it makes sense to them to go on welfare, to be, I'm saying they're being autistic. I'm not having a crack at autism. I'm saying that they want to be diagnosed as autistic. They want to be diagnosed as some kind of disability, because then it means that, you can take a step off it because you've got an excuse. Whereas, millennials didn't, like, we're probably the last group of people that understood that, you get what you work for. We understood that what first, second, third place was. So now you've got a bunch of kids who, to be fair, they've got, what they got to fight for? They're not allowed to get trophies. They're not allowed to win.
And as we talked before about Konstantin Kisin at ARC, talking about the fact that if people can't get a home and settle down and start a family, then we've really unmoored them from their home. We've stolen their future. It's a little bit what's her name? The Doom Goblin.
Stolen my dreams.
Exactly. My childhood and my dreams. How dare you? But we have kind of done that by taking away people's ability to actually settle down and start a family and put down roots. And therefore, what are we asking them to fight for? What are we asking them to pay taxes for? Why not just go on the dole? If you've got no future anyway, why not just figure out how to make life as easy as possible for yourself? Now,
this comment here, Carlz, you should watch Lucy Biggers. Sorry. She followed me on Instagram the other day. I don't know why, and I didn't know who it was. And I clicked on it, and I saw that she was talking to Konstantin Kisin on trigonometry. And I was like, what is this? Cool. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I think she's 30 now. So she's the tail end of millennials. And she was in the climate cult, and she talks about it. She talks about how her first job, she's a journalist. She went to uni and did journalism. Her first job was at, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it was like a left-leaning publication, and it was quite left-leaning. And she got into that position in 2015, just before Trump came in. And it was discussion around the climate, all this sort of stuff. And she talks about, to be fair, I only watched like a clip. It was about 20 minutes, but she talks about how there's a pipeline and you just get sucked into it. You don't necessarily volunteer to go into it. You get sucked into it. and you swallow all these talking points. And she made a comment, which I'm probably going to get wrong, but she talked about how she didn't realize that CO2 is like 6% of our atmosphere, or like a really small amount.
It's 0.042% at the moment, but yeah.
Okay. And so in her mind, when they talked about CO2 emissions, she thought that like, oxygen was half and CO2 was half, and now it was like 3.
Yeah.
That's the lack of nuance of her being able to understand the yeah. And so I think that's what we have now. We have people who, and I see this like that reel I put up about the whole Roxy Tickle thing. Their talking points, they're parrots. They say the same thing. Do you know how many times I was accused of internalized misogyny? I'm like, explain that for me. What does internalized misogyny mean? They can't explain it, but that's the word. That's what they have to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use it like it's a spell in Harry Potter. It's like, if I say these words, it'll make the witch go away. Before we move on, I want to bring this comment up here because this is a sentiment that I'm getting more these days. And I've gone a bit more hardline recently than what I had been previously. And so I'm not surprised that I'm getting a bit more pushback. But this is something that often happens now. People saying, oh, that's not going to be popular, or some form of that kind of pushback. Now, in this case, I don't think that's going to pass the pub test in a million years, mate. Your anger is getting the better of you. No, my anger is not getting the better of me. The thing is, I do not ask myself whether what I'm saying is going to be popular. Yeah. Literally ever. I believe I'm correct in saying that at no point in time in any of my political commentary on any topic, in any book I've written, in any speech I've given, has the question, will this be popular, affected what I've said. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I dedicated chapters of my book to this. If you ever get your hands on my book, I'm not saying you have to buy it. You can probably pick it up for 50 cents from an op shop. There's a chapter in there. It sucks to be right early, but that's the only time it matters. Read that and you'll understand where my head's at. There's another chapter in there, in defense of assholes. Read that. You'll see where my head is at. I don't care. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but understand, I don't care. Popularity, likability, none of it matters. What matters to me is that time and time again throughout life, I've been hated on, sometimes by hundreds of thousands or even over 1 million people at a time. And then over time, I've been vindicated. I started talking about the Murray-Darling Basin Plan in 2011, before it even came into effect. I was already telling the world what was going to happen. I didn't make a lot of friends doing that. I've been defending free speech since long before the Karen's e-safety office existed. I was defending free speech against Julia Gillard's free speech news media council, which was recommended by Judge Finkelstein in his report. I was opposed to vaccine mandates before they were even a thing. I was opposed to lockdowns from the day they began. I have made an enormous number of enemies and been vindicated over and over again. Please don't come at me with this won't pass the pub test nonsense. My life cycle is this. I say a thing that's true. Everyone tells me that I'm wrong and that I'm doing it for the attention or for the money or because I don't care about killing grandma or all of these various insults and reasons. And then over a process of 3 to 5 years, usually, the majority of people realize that I was right all along, and a handful of people will come back to me and apologize. That's just how my life is. I'm very used to it. I'm not even resigned to it. I'm actually just completely okay with it. So please, can we give this, that's not going to be popular, that's not going to pass the pub test. The English language lacks the vocabulary to express how deeply I do not care. Let's move on.
I will say, just add something to that as well. I've made that point too. You say it sucks to be right early. It's hard to do the right thing, but those who do it will eventually get rewarded. And I bring that up for a couple of reasons. I made the comment before about how I do get incredibly frustrated, how people who have a bigger platform than me, who have more credibility in their industries than I have ever had, were silent when they could have stopped us going down this path. And now all of a sudden, where it feels a little bit safer to do so, they do it because it's somewhat more popular to present these populist ideas. It's more safe now than ever to sort of question the Labor government. It wasn't in 2021. Ask me how I know. And so I do think that, people are quite short-sighted. They're like, oh, this doesn't work for me now. Okay, you're right, it doesn't. Yeah. But the alternative is that we all suffer and we all go down this hell together until someone grows a backbone and that person eventually is rewarded. But if your only incentive to get your ass moving is money, then fucking hell, grow up. if that is the only thing that gets you to move the needle, to, you know, to pick up a pen, to go outside and do something that actually is good and morally right, then fuck you. Honestly, the amount of times I am accused every fucking day. Sorry, I get worked up about this because it just really insults me. The amount of times I'm accused of taking money from Qatar, Adrian Portelli, the Liberal Party, Mossad, ASIO, you name it. I have been accused of taking money from all of those corporations. I haven't taken a fucking dollar, not
Correct.
$1, okay?
Yeah.
And to be further to that, I go into debt for what I'm doing. All the video equipment, everything for the Oddcast has come out of my fucking pocket, and of course, the donations that you Oddies make, right? This is not funded by Qatar or fucking Mossad or all these, like, you know, nefarious people standing behind the curtains. I actually do this. I'm not speaking for Topher. My reels, one reel, you guys might laugh, it takes me 4 hours. I have to research it. I have to understand what I'm doing. I have to fact check it. I have to write the script. I got to film it. I got to edit and put it up. I do it for nothing. I don't get a friggin' dollar for it. I don't get paid for that. And people are like, Carly, you need to talk about this. Why aren't you talking about that? Why haven't you covered this topic? Mate, how many hours are in a day? I do this for free. But you don't do shit, and you rely on people like us to do it for you. This is where I get worked up. You all have a voice, every single one of you. Don't stand behind someone like me or Topher and go, well, I need you to do it because you have the audience. What's stopping you, right? And I know not everyone's as extroverted as me. I understand that. But my point is, when it's bad enough and your back is against the wall, you will find that you do have that spine. Very few of us are born with it. Some of us who are extroverted can fake it till we make it. I understand that. But when push comes to shove, when it's your daughter standing in that change room with that 60-year-old pedophile who's fucking swinging his dick around because he's legally allowed to, you will find that you grow that courage real quick. But the problem is most people don't find that courage until it hurts them personally or their big pocket personally, and then all of a sudden they get that spine. And that's why I get so pissed off. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you talking about this? Why? Because this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I care about. Right. I'm not saying you have to do it.
So this is a bit of pushback from Muffin Man 007. Popularity matters when you're trying to make a living and pay a team on this platform. Yes and no. If I compromise on what I actually believe in for the sake of paying my bills, then why am I even here? At that point, I'm just an entertainer. So yes, I have to think about being able to pay my team. I have to think about being able to pay my bills. I have to pay Carly. I have to pay others. That is very, very true and very, very real. It's one of the reasons why I'm heading to the US for 2 months in just a few weeks' time now, is to try and crack the US market, because it's easier to be able to turn $1 and make money selling books and selling t-shirts into the US. It's a bigger market. But this is the balance. And there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of influencers and YouTubers and whatever that will say whatever it takes to get a bigger audience, to get a bigger platform, to be able to monetize it more, to get the advertisers, to get the sponsors, to do all that stuff. And they're very, very willing to do that. I've proved over 17 years that I'm not in this for the money. I've told the story already. I knocked back $1 million from Dick Smith. Okay, I could have been a millionaire at age 30. Dick Smith was literally, I was sitting with him in his home in, what is it, North Ryde or whatever it is, the North Shore up there where he lives in Sydney. He flew me up to Sydney. I spent the day with him. I flew in his private jet. I flew in his helicopter. I sat at his kitchen table, and he was the one trying to convince me to take $1 million, and I knocked him back. Why? Because he wanted me to be the face of a campaign that I didn't truly believe in. So I understand the tension that comes with having a public profile and also having bills to pay. I understand the temptation that comes with that. But here's the funny thing. The people that end up compromising on what they're actually about and why they're actually doing it, they burn out or they become hollow. One of those two things happens. And Carly, you'll vouch for me. I had a bit of an existential crisis a couple of weeks ago where I was sitting there going, why am I so uncomfortable with covering some of these topics? You'd put a story in front of me. It's like, this is going mega viral. It's blowing up all over the place. I'm like, yes, I know. This would get views. I don't give a shit. I don't want to talk about this. And I finally realized that if it doesn't come back to government, because ultimately my crusade, if I can sum up my crusade, you know, I'm Don Quixote on that horse with the lance tilting at windmills, right? My crusade is that government has become an idol in our culture. We've given it the place of God, and I want to tear that idol down. That's my crusade. And I don't care how many views a topic might get me. If it does not aid me in that aim, in that objective, then I'm not interested. And I mentioned at the start of this diatribe, I mentioned that I've become a bit more strident recently. I've become a bit more hard-lined, a bit more hard-edged. It's because I finally realized the crusade that I'm on. I'd been operating on instinct. I like talking about this. I don't want to talk about that, but I didn't know why. Now I understand my why at a deeper level than what I ever did before. And I can tell you, I'm not selling out for money. I don't care. I will figure my way through this. I'll figure out how to pay my team. I'll figure out a way to keep going because this is the crusade I'm on, and no amount of money is going to knock me off that.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I just get sick of hearing. I've already seen a couple of comments in there like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. All right, fine. Okay, I don't. Why the fuck are you here? Why are you watching? If I don't know what I'm talking about, why are you here? I don't understand this. Okay, next topic is important because if we haven't got people's blood pressure up enough, I alluded to this before. So this is doing the rounds on X. All of a sudden, people have understood that there is transparency in our government if you pay attention and you can go and actually look up what our parliamentarians are spending taxpayer money on, right? This isn't new. This didn't pop up yesterday, but for whatever reason, all of a sudden, and this is why I get so freaking pumped, right? I thought this was the best thing I've seen in a long time. People on X are just jumping on to government websites and doing some digging. This is what journalists used to do. Now we've got all these independent journalists, independent people everywhere. I'm like, fucking yes. I can't do this all myself. Topher can't do it all. We don't have enough hours in the day. But now we've got people on X who are going onto this website. For those who want to look at it, it's just literally ipea.gov.au, and you can type in your politician's name and see what they're spending. So down here, this is what it looks like. So Claire O'Neill is the housing person, right? She's one of the MPs that's been in the media a lot the last week because she's been talking about the capital gains and housing. So just to be clear, this is January to March 2026. This is 3 months, right? And let's have a look at what one politician is spending in 3 months, okay? And anyone can look this up. This is not private or confidential. So she has spent $311,539.12 of taxpayer money in 3 months, okay? What does she spend it on? Travel allowance. Let's have a look. Nights of travel, 24. Guys, do the math. 8,116 divided by 24. That's what she's spending per night for her travel. Scheduled commercial transport, 18,000. Here we go. Look at all these invoices, right? Melbourne to Canberra, Sydney to Melbourne, right? Okay, let's keep going. Car costs. What would car costs be? Private plated vehicle. That's her personal car. She has charged the taxpayer $4,369 for 3 months.
Correction. I think you'll find that the private plated vehicles are government chauffeur vehicles. So she would have used one a few times at that cost. I will just Google that now to double check. You keep going through the list.
Well, the reason I say that, lease rental, why are we paying a lease rental? Explain that to me. If that's not a private car, what's lease rental? Why are we paying 3 lease payments of $1,242 in 3 months? That's a personal loan. And here we are.
I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Your initial interpretation was correct.
Thank you. So, guys, your politician who has access, as Topher said, to government cars and all the things, we taxpayers are paying for her car loan. We pay for it. So you have a car loan of $1,200, whatever you have. Guess what? We're paying for all the politicians. It gets better. This is just one. I'm going to pull up a couple because I want you guys to be outraged and I want you guys to jump on this website and do your own digging. This is how I empower you guys. All right. She's charged this for petrol. That's about right for a petrol fill up. But why are we filling up so much in the month? Where are we driving? Comcar. There you go. That's the government car.
What's the website, Carly? I'm being asked. I'll type it into the comments.
Okay. So it's ipea.gov.au. ipea.gov.au.
All right, that's just going into the comments right now. It'll show up on YouTube. Anyone watching on YouTube, that should have popped up in your comments.
Okay, Comcar, as G pointed out. So, guys, on top of paying her private plated car, $10,000 of costs in 3 months, and just keep in the back of mind, what do you spend on your car? Just keep that in the back of the mind.
Mm.
Remember, Claire O'Neill, I've got to live Google this because I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Claire O'Neill salary. Let's just see what she's roughly on because she's a minister. Okay. Her remuneration. Are you ready to get fucking pissed off? Because Australians' debt's getting close to 1 trillion and she's a federal member. Her salary per annum is $412,000 of the taxpayer money. $412,000. Okay. So she gets a base salary for being a federal backbencher of $239,270 plus an additional ministerial salary entitlement for a other minister in the cabinet, which sits at an additional 72.5% of the base salary.
What are you reading right now? Because that's not on our screen.
Okay, sorry. Let me bring it up so you guys can see it. This is an AI report on her salary. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. So I just Googled, what is her salary? Okay, total remuneration, $412,000. That includes her backbencher salary of $239,000. And she gets a salary entitlement for other minister in cabinet for 72.5% of her base salary. So she is currently the Minister for Housing, Homelessness, and Minister for Cities. All right. So her exact compensation is total salary $412,000. That comes from the government's website. All right. So if you want to go fact check it. Okay. Bear that in mind. So it's just over $400,000, and we are still paying for her private vehicle. So out of her almost $500,000 salary, I understand I rounded up, but out of that, we still need to pay her $10,000 every 3 months for her private car. Explain this to me. Explain this to me. You can't. This is a rot. Okay, I'm not done. I'm going to continue this fucking rant. Sorry, and I'm swearing a lot. All of you who get upset with swearing, I really couldn't care less. Get bigger problems.
Really? You had the opportunity to say, I don't give a fuck. And you backed out of it. You went for a non-swear word. Come on.
All right. So we're still on Claire O'Neill. I'll bring up the others in a second. All right. Telecommunications, $906 in phone bills. Residential. So we're paying her residential thing.
This is in 3 months.
What fucking mobile phone charges $700 for 3 months? This isn't 1995.
It's got to be overseas.
So again, why are we using overseas data? Fucking, what do they call it when you are overseas and you use roaming? Why are we using roaming? We have eSIMs. We have Skype. Oh, not Skype. We have fucking WhatsApp. We have every other. We shouldn't be paying this money. Okay. Employee travel. So these are all her staffers. Just shy of 200,000. So domestic travel undertaken by 20 employees for 3 months is just shy of $200,000. Guys, are you angry yet? Are you angry? Because I'm fucking angry. All right. Let's bring up the next one. So I'm just going to search by labors. Everyone's on there. Actually, let's do a good one. Let's do the Greens. Let's do the Greens. You'll love this. We were looking at it before. All right. Remember, they're the Greens, okay? Marine Faruqi, who, by the way, owns 6 properties. Did you know that? 6. All right.
And she gets to keep the negative gearing on all of them. Thank you very much, because they all get grandfathered in.
Yeah, so I love how they're called the honourable. Someone just point that up. Yeah, honourable my ass. Okay, so Marine Faruqi, who loves to lecture us about, how evil we all are, she sure does love to take that taxpayer money. So let me just double check. I'm going to Google her salary. Marine Faruqi, is that it? Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Only barely, but yes.
Okay, so as of late 2024, so this is a bit out of date, she's on a base salary of $233,660 per annum. So she gets a base salary plus increases. So I dare say that's more now. She'd be closer to $250,000. Okay. She's on $250,000. And let's have a look at what we cover for Marine Faruqi. You guys can see that? Yeah. Okay. So travel allowance, 20 nights cost us $6,688. Scheduled commercial transport, right? That's a lot of airfares. By the way, she lives in Sydney. Geez, Sydney to Canberra, $600. We flying first class? We flying business?
No, they're flying business on Qantas because that's the government's preferred airline, so they all fly Qantas.
All right. Okay, to be fair, she hasn't been using a private car. We'll give her a bonus for that. Office facilities, 72,400. Aggregated total, we don't have an itemized bill for office facilities for $72,447. Okay.
Yeah.
Office administration, printing.
That's different to
and
facilities.
this is different. Printing and communications. Let's have a look at this. Printing and communications on the 12th of January, 1,125. On the 19th of January, 1,125. On the 26th of January, that's Australia Day, she was printing $925 worth of stuff. On the 2nd of Feb, $750. On the 9th, 1,125. On the 16th, 1,125. What the fuck are we printing? And why is it conveniently always the same number? What is this? What are we printing? Aren't you a Green senator? Aren't you meant to be like saving the environment or whatever the fuck you meant to stand for?
No, she's sequestering carbon. She's taking it and putting it into a storage stable form that people are going to shove into their bottom drawer next to their bed, and it'll never get touched again. She's taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, Carly.
You're right. I apologize, guys. I didn't know. And then employee travel. For 6 employees, I can't do math. Let me do this quickly. If anyone can do that off the top of your head.
It's a lot of money. It's like $4,500 each, bit over. It's like $4,700 each, something like that.
4,800 is what they're spending in 3 months. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Let's see. Give me a name. Who do you want to do? Give me a name.
Oh goodness, I'm kind of like, I think you've proved your point, Carly. I think.
One more. Come on, one more. Let's do it. Let's see. I won't do Albanese because he is the Prime Minister, so I won't do him.
Tell you what, hang on. I'll just look in the comments, guys. Guys, tell us. I will give it about 30 seconds. Whichever politician has the most votes, we will do them. You got 30 seconds.
It's got to be Annika Wells.
We have a vote. We have a vote for Annika Wells, Payman, Bowen, Ralph Babette.
All right, let's do Annika Wells because hers is good.
Hers will be good because she's the one who's been in the middle of all of the travel expense scandals.
She is on page 2.
A lot of votes for Bowen. I've got to say, a lot of votes for Bowen.
Bowen? All right. Let me see. Bowen. How do I spell his surname?
Bowen.
Hang on. Bowen. Let's see. This website's a bit janky, so it doesn't always come. Oh, there we go. All right. In 3 months,
Chris Bowen, MP.
This should be good. Mr. Climate Change himself. Just under $500,000, so $449,941. All right.
Sorry, can we just pause for a minute and draw a box around this? This doesn't actually include his salary. You're looking up his salary separately.
I'm doing it right now. I'm looking at.
It also doesn't include his staffers. So we're looking at expenses related to his staffers, office and travel and this and that, but it actually doesn't include their salaries. They get, I think every MP gets 4 now. I might be out of date with that, but they get a couple of people on half decent salaries. They're not the highest paid people in the world, but then it's not bad. And then all of what we're looking at here in these reports is over and above.
All right. So just to give you guys like really high blood pressure, again, not necessarily accurate as of today, but a pretty good round number here. So as of 24 to 25, the federal minister received a base salary of $233,660, plus significant additional loadings for their ministerial roles, likely pushing the total remuneration above the 400,000 mark. So for round figures sake, let's put him in the same boat as the other MP I talked about, around $422,000, give or take a little bit. I mean, once you're over 400,000, what's a couple of extra tens of thousands?
Look, you're probably doing okay at that point, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So bear in mind, guys, he's earning just over $400,000 per annum. And
Paul, listen, that's only $8,000 a week, more than $1,000 a day. Like, just settle down, relax.
Yeah. All right. So whilst earning that, that's his to keep. That $400,000+ in his bank account, right? Yep. All right. On top of that, he now bills the taxpayer for 3 months, $449,941. I know you guys want it.
Gosh,
I know you want it. Let's have a look at commercial transport. All right. So he went to the USA and it cost us $3,700, right? He went to China, Hong Kong, India, and Sri Lanka, right? And then down here we've got Brazil and Chile for 10 days. Okay. Employee international travel costs $50,000. Meals and accommodation, $7,600. When was the last time you guys looked at the accommodation for places like Chile and Brazil? It's very cheap.
Foie gras doesn't come free, okay? I'm sorry, but you have to eat like a king if you're going to be a king.
That top shelf cognac isn't going to pay for itself, is it?
Correct.
Ministerial fares, 16,770. Okay, New Zealand for a day. 1 day in New Zealand, $5,874. Okay. Scheduled commercial transport. So these are his airfares. Sydney to Canberra, $600. Sydney to Wagga Wagga, $373. Sydney to Brisbane, $1,200. Brisbane to Sydney, $1,000. For someone who's really, really worried about CO2, he sure does commit a lot of it, doesn't he? All right.
Has anyone told him that Zoom exists?
Okay, no, apparently not. Okay, other car costs, private plated
vehicle. Okay.
I'm sorry. Why does Chris Bowen have a car? Let's have a look. Ooh, electrical charges, end of lease adjustment, lease rental. What has he got for $1,700 a month, friends? What kind of cars he got?
Wait, well, sorry. Can we just? How did you get past that top line without getting stuck?
Oh, that was my
guess.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, guys, we pay when the politicians have a bingle. We pay their excess. And just to be clear, in case it's not clear to you guys, when you're at fault, you pay the excess. So if you cause the accident, you pay the $1,000 excess. So that means Chris Bowen's had an accident. We, the taxpayer, are paying for it.
You can't expect somebody on $400,000 a year to pay their own insurance excess, Carly. Let's be reasonable here.
What car has he got for $1,700 a month? He's clearly got an EV because there's no petrol charges. What EV costs $1,700 a month? Guys, it's got to be a Porsche, right?
Well, there goes my theory, because I thought maybe if we just made all of the ministerial cars and the com cars and the private plated cars into EVs, that maybe that might solve the budget. We might, I mean, I'm being told that the amount of money you save on fuel is worth it. But clearly, if he's driving an EV, I just,
Here we go. Gee, if Chris Bowen hits me, I have to pay his excess. Yes.
Well played, G. Well played.
BYD, guys, $1,700 is an astronomically high car payment. Like, we're looking in the it's got to be a Porsche or something. I know it's an EV, but this is not a Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a Porsche Taycan. It could be. I mean, look, he might have bought a Nazi car. You never know.
I don't doubt it. Let's have a look here. So Comcar is obviously his government car. There's in 3 months $6,000. So just to be clear, guys, I know I'm kind of going over it twice. In 3 months, just 3 months, one man has billed the taxpayer a travel allowance of $8,800 plus let's call it $86,000 for international travel, plus $11,000 for commercial domestic travel, plus $10,000 for cars, both private and commercial. What? This is our environmental minister.
Okay, so firstly, on the car cost front, the com car is actually the line item that I find the least objectionable, because a car that is driven by somebody else is a productivity tool. So ironically, however, can we just come down to office facilities? So I'm going to remind you again, their staff wages, their staff salaries are not included in these numbers. Office facilities, $120,000. That's not for the year. That's for 3 months. Then on top of that, he has office administration for another $120,000 for 3 months.
What the fuck? Printing and communications, $112,000? What are you printing?
He's spending $250,000 a quarter. He is spending $1 million a year on his office and his office expenses, not including salaries.
What did he print on the 19th of September that cost $27,744?
Hang on, let me just check my diary. That he 3D printed a titanium dildo. That'll be what it was.
28th of April, $29,000. What?
That was the extra large sized one.
What? It's just office consumables and service, stationery. Yeah, it's stationery.
Well,
He spent
it's for
$7
all that
grand.
printing. It's for all that printing, you know? He needs paper.
$7 grand. What?
Yeah, you're
flags?
taking at some point you're just taking the piss, aren't you?
Flags. Oh, are these fucking LGBT flags? What? What? $1,446,000 for 13 employees. Guys, do the math. This is the one time I wish I had a brain that could do math. The brain don't do math over here. Divided by 13, his employees spent just shy of 12 grand each for travel.
In 3 months.
What?
It is great to be king, isn't it? And then on top of that, by the way, if they're a minister, the department that they are a minister of has an entirely separate budget of their own. So anytime they travel as a minister with a whole bunch of representatives from their ministry, that's not included in this. This is the staff that work for them individually as the MP. The other people are not included in these budget items.
Guys, how much does my new mic cost? I'm sorry, I'm screeching.
Yeah.
Are you guys on board? This is just outrageous.
Yes, it is. But then you look at the budget and see how much money they're sending overseas on foreign aid and spending on all kinds of nonsense and rugby teams in other countries and all kinds of craziness. And you realize these people don't care. This isn't their money. Honestly, the last thing they're thinking about is getting value for money. I'm aware that we're over the 2-hour mark, and I want to respond to one last super chat from Cruel Intentions. And then I think we should probably wrap it up. You good?
My voice is dying, so sure.
All right. Now, I saw in the comments, apparently I misread the tone. Of course, when you're reading text, there is no tone from the last one that I responded to. So apologies. Apparently he wasn't really having a go, was asking a good faith question. So I apologize. My response is still my response, but I probably would have changed my tone of voice if I had realized that. So I apologize. Anyway, Cruel Intentions 182. Just interested, Topher, if tragedy happened and touch wood, your kids became disabled and unable to work as adults, would you still believe and tell them they should not have the right to vote? 100%. This is the thing that people, it amazes me that people haven't figured this out. My positions are not based on the context. My positions are my positions. They are absolute. They are principles, not positions. I shouldn't have used the word positions. No, if you are not helping to pay for the bills, how come you get to dictate where that money gets spent? Now, I'm someone who does my best to live according to what I say people ought to do. So I tell people, try not to depend on charity, try to make sure that you've got family. And if your family sucks, try to have friends and community that you're an active and positive part of. And if that sucks, churches and other sort of wider groups, try and have people in your life who would step in under those circumstances. And I can tell you, let's hypothetically, touch wood, car crash, I'm killed, my wife's killed, my kids are disabled. Right? Worst possible case scenario. I'm not here to look after them. My wife's not here to look after them. They can't look after themselves. I can tell you right now that there are people in my life who would be fighting each other over custody of my kids to raise them. Why? Well, because they're a part of my community. They love me. They love my family. I love them. I love their family. They know bloody well that I'd be there for them in a heartbeat, and they will be there for me in a heartbeat. So I don't need the government's safety net, not because I'm lucky with an amazing family. I am lucky with an amazing family. But separate to that, you could sit there and go, well, my family sucks. Okay, maybe that's true. But I've also built an incredible community of friends, an incredible community of people who I know will be there for my kids if I can't be. So I'm not worried about the future of my kids. I'm more worried about the government getting themselves involved and fucking them up than I am about my kids, being, homeless on the street. I'm not worried about that. That's not going to happen unless they do it to themselves. That's the only circumstance under which that's going to happen to them. Why? Well, because I'm an active part of communities of people where they value me and I value them, and they're there for me and I'm there for them. Yes, that requires an investment of time and energy and love and all of the human resources that, honestly make life worth living in the first place. But that's also my security. My knowledge, my confidence in the future of my kids being looked after no matter what happens to me. Now, on the voting issue specifically, 100%. if you are not paying taxes, if you are not contributing, if you are not funding where that money is going, I'm sorry, you don't get to choose. Now, so let me go back a step. Sorry, I'm going to go back over a little bit of basics here, but not everyone will have heard me go through this. The reason why this is so crystal clear to me is because I understand that money is actually first and foremost a language. It is a language, it is a voting system, and it is a means of exchange. But the only thing that anyone will ever tell you about is means of exchange. They don't tell you about the language aspect of money, and they don't tell you about the voting aspect of money. And these two things are really, really important. You cannot separate them out from the nature of what money is. The language side of things is real simple. People lie with their words all the time, but they tell the truth. They tell the truth with their money. Okay, bye, Sharon. They tell the truth with their money. People don't lie with their money. And this is super important. People will say what they think you want to hear to your face with their words because it costs them nothing. It doesn't cost you to be nice. Okay, that's true, but you're still fucking lying. You're still deceiving somebody. You're still giving somebody incorrect information, which if they then proceed with their life and act on that information, they're going to get themselves hurt. Why? Because it's not true. It's not accurate information. Money brings out the truth. People very rarely lie with their money. So the number one function of money is actually as a language, as a form of communication. Number two, money is voting. Every time you choose to spend your money, you've cast a vote in favor of that business. Every time you walk past without spending, you've cast a vote against that business's ongoing survival and towards their replacement with some other business. Now, here's the funny thing. The more people vote for you with their money, the more you get to vote for others. This is what capitalism, this is what free markets are about. If I bring an enormous amount of money, if I make an enormous amount of money, it's because lots of people voted into my life. And that gives me a lot of votes. I now have a tremendous amount of influence with my votes. This is a second function of money. The third one is as a means of exchange and a means of tracking value and so forth. That's the one that all the economists talk about. So if someone is not voting their money into the government, if someone is not speaking into the government, then why do they get to determine how that money gets used? To me, this becomes a disjointed conversation. It's like we're allowing people to shout over the top. People who actually, they don't have a place in that conversation. They haven't contributed. No one's voted for them. They're not voting for anyone in this particular financial equation. None of these exchanges are voluntary. Welfare is not voluntary. It's done at the point of a gun. It doesn't mean anything. The language aspect of that is gone completely. It doesn't mean anything from a voting point of view. 2/3 of the function of money is eradicated as soon as you spend it within the context of welfare. These people should not have the right to determine how money is spent on behalf of other people who actually did the right things and participated in that conversation properly. I don't think I expressed that very well, but that's at a philosophical level, that's where I'm coming from. Topher, going off what you said before. Yep.
So answer that one first.
Yeah, so going off what you said before, would a 15-year-old on the first job be allowed to vote? It's a genuine question. I don't see why not. I don't think the age thing is actually that big. People are their brains fully developed? Are they contributing? Are they a maker or a taker? Are they part of the solution or part of the problem? If they're a maker, if they're part of the solution, sure. No, if they're part of the solution, if they are paying in and they are funding this monstrosity we call government, then I think they get a say in how that money gets used.
I will say something as well, guys in the chat. Like I welcome the disagreement. You know, Topher's not the be all end all. So you're more than welcome.
I mean, I am, but I welcome the disagreement.
No, I appreciate when we disagree because I disagree with the not being able to vote thing. I think boomers and people who built the country should be able to still vote. I understand what you're saying. I understand the sentiment. You should have organized your life so that you're still making money and paying tax. I disagree on the age thing. I really do think you should have, but these are my positions, guys, and you're welcome to disagree with me as well. My position is I think the voting age should absolutely be lifted for sure. Because I think about myself when I was 18, 19, how silly I was and how idealistic I was. I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing. Like, what a waste of my vote. But further to that, I also think that politicians shouldn't be able to be a politician until they've worked in the private sector. I don't think there should be any pipeline where you can go from uni into young liberals or, you know, young labor or whatever they call it, working as a staffer and then work your way up. I think that that's a no-go. You should have to work in the private sector for 10 years or something. But I just don't agree that you should have that pipeline. That's my opinion.
Couple of fantastic questions here. What defines a contributor? Net taxpayer. You have to be putting more into the government than you're taking out of it. Simple as that. The question here, Tricky Hat 1 says IQ-based voting rights. Hard no. Hard no. There should be no mental capacity test. There should be no tests of any kind, because we know from history they get.
IQ's a bullshit test anyway. Like it's just pattern
but
recognition.
these things get manipulated. So the Soviets used to lock people into prison if they thought there was a God, and they did it on the basis of mental health. Only an insane person would believe in an imaginary sky friend. So anyone that insists that there is a God is insane, and we're gonna lock them away. No, they're hard pass, hard no. If they can contribute to society, then they get to have a say in how that society spends the money that they are contributing. So Vex Dragon says next level. If you don't have a business, you don't have a right to vote. That's just one step from your opinion. No, my opinion has nothing to do with business. It has to do with contributing, being a maker, not a taker, being someone who produces rather than consumes. It doesn't matter. Business has nothing to do with it. That's not one step. That's an entirely different track. If you are a net taxpayer, you get the right to vote. That's how I would run it if I could. Well, thank you. If you could chuck me 10 mil, that would be lovely. But unfortunately, you can't, and so I'm just going to have to go without.
Guys, yep. I love the debate. I actually really like it when we all get in the chat like this. So thank you. I appreciate seeing everyone's got different opinions, which is great, and I think it's really healthy. And I actually encourage this. So push back on our positions. We're not necessarily always right. Topher will tell you he is. But
I'll tell you I am, but I also, hang on, in my defense, I talk publicly about times I got things very, very wrong. I've done that on this show, and I do it in my videos. So I don't actually think that I'm always right. I'm very aware that I'm not. And my views, I used to be a conservative back when I was young and retarded, before I grew up. And so, I'm very public about the fact that I've been very wrong about a number of things. Can I just say, it can raise I was 17 in the army, 19 getting shot at in Afghan. Service guarantees citizenship. Well, I certainly think if you've been a service member, your citizenship should be guaranteed. I think that should be a given. And look, if I was going to make an exception on that voting thing, if I was going to make an exception for anything, it would be for combat veterans. To say, listen, if you're a combat veteran, then you get to keep voting even if you're not still paying taxes. That's probably the one area where I could be swayed, because you are out there risking a much higher cost than just taxes. I could be swayed on that point, but that'd be probably the only point where I could be swayed.
All right, it's time to wrap it up, but I have a couple of housekeeping things, because guys, we're so bad at this, but we do need to do it. So if you like the Oddcast and you want to support it, we have t-shirts. We have Tangent Time t-shirts. I'm going to pull them up really quickly. This is how you help us do the show. So, this is, yes, you can buy us a coffee on Ko-fi, which is great, and we always love that. But, I'm a big believer in, you should get something for your money. So we have plenty of things you can buy. So let me pull them up as I scroll through this bloody website that I built.
The one that you made, yeah.
Yeah, hang on. I've got it. All right. So I'm a big believer in I just don't want people throwing money at us for no reason. Guys, you can buy merch. That's how you can support the show. You get a cool t-shirt. So Topher's got his merch there, all designed by me, by the way. That's why it looks so good.
And isn't it gorgeous?
Isn't it gorgeous? But this is the Oddcast t-shirt. So you can buy a Tangent Time, because we always stay on tangent. If you want to support us and do the coffee thing as well, you can do that. But we believe that you should get something for your money, and you get this show every week, twice a week, and you also get the t-shirts if you want to buy one. And further to that, we appreciate you. We love it that you're here, and we're not the kind of podcast that expects you to agree with us on everything. Healthy debate is a good debate. And even though I get a bit shouty at times, I love you all very dearly, and I'm very appreciative that you all tune into the show. I don't think I say that enough. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
All right. Very quickly, are we still going to do an Oddcast when we're in the US? We are. We have to figure out what that looks like, because this is a really brutal time of day in the US. So I probably can't be coming on weekly live, but the pre-recorded show I think is much more feasible. So Carly and I are going to talk about that off air, and we'll make some announcements next week.
Well, I can tell you this. I do have a replacement for the lives.
Excuse me. There is no substitute for testicle.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to still make sure you're in the thumbnails, but I'm going to make it like Where's Wally, and I'm going to put you in random parts of the thumbnail.
I love that. All right. That's good. That's good.
No, so every Monday, because Topher can't do the live because of the time difference, I will have a whole host of different people. I've got some good people, some people that you probably not have seen before, some people that you might have. We'll probably have Ari and Rukshan back again. But, there's a couple of really cool people who are up and coming who I think would be great. There's a girl, I've talked about her before. Her name's Callista.
Yeah.
If you guys are on IG, she's young. She's 25, man, and she is hot off the press. She is fantastic. And I think you guys will dig her. She's a Gen Z. She's the people I rip on all the time. And she's fucking smart. So
and yet
we're going to get Callista on. We've got, a couple of people. But yeah, we want you guys to feel like this is worth listening to. And by the way, we've been doing this over a year now. So thank you. And it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It didn't blow up overnight like some of them do. But that was never the intention, because we weren't here to try and be agreeable. And I think the reason that we get people in the chat going, I'm out, fuck this, is because we aren't agreeable all the time.
I just don't care. I'm sorry.
Guys,
to be clear, I care about you as a human being, but I don't care about your opinions. You're wrong, okay? Just deal with it.
I need to crush the rumors. I feel like I need to introduce you guys to a thing. This is called highlighter. This is makeup, okay? And I have highlighter on. It is not pregnancy glow, okay? Just so you know. But thank you for commenting on my gorgeous skid. I'm glad it's working.
We'll check in a few months. I want to just quickly tick this one off because I think it was Muffin Man 007 who I misread the tone of earlier. So apologies, mate. He asked his final question. I'm going to sign off on this. What about someone who's so mentally deficient that they're not legally allowed to make their own decisions? Would you let these people vote who genuinely can't understand what they're voting for? I would suggest that under my model, this is a problem that solves itself. Someone who's genuinely that intellectually disabled is not likely to be a net taxpayer. They're likely to need support. They're likely to need welfare or to need community or to need charity. So I would suggest that if they're successfully able to do something productive and pay into the system, then yes. But I would suggest that someone who's genuinely in that situation wouldn't be a net taxpayer. So these sorts of problems kind of solve themselves. And what this does is it means we don't need some external authority saying, oh, what's your IQ? Are you mentally deficient? How smart are you really? Do you really know what's going on? No. If they're smart enough to work and earn money and pay taxes on that, then they're smart enough to vote. If they're not, then they're not. It sort of cleans all of that up. All right,
guys. I think this has been a good podcast. I've enjoyed it.
It's been good fun. All right, we started heavy. We finished arguing. I mean, what more do you want?
So guys, go check out that website. If you want it again, just to reiterate, it is ipea.gov.au. That's the federal one. I'm assuming you can definitely look at senators, but when it comes to the state, I'm assuming state governments have something similar because it is all.
That have their own separate website.
But like just to finish on a good note, I was really excited to see how many people were digging through this website. This is not new. It's been there for a very long time. But all of a sudden, we've got people who are politically engaged, people who care, and I think this is the best possible outcome. I've never seen, I'll end with this. I've never seen a government so under the pressure of the public as Albo. Like, he cannot get a score on the board. And from every angle, people have got him under the screws. And, this kind of transparency where people are like, well, what about this? Why aren't you spending this? This guy can't get ahead of the argument. He doesn't know how to win. It's fantastic.
Sorry, Carly, I didn't hear a word. I'm just checking the size. It's really hard to see your own nose. It's kind of,
I can see my nose.
It keeps moving every time I try and see it. All right, Muffin Man, you win this one. I can't tell you that you're wrong because I can't see my nose.
All right, guys.
Alrighty.
I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We'll see you Wednesday, 7:30. The Oddcast HQ. Make sure you subscribe.
And I'm going to say